Chapter 205. Whoosh! Zhongya's entire body was surrounded by a black glow, and his inner yuan burst out of his body like a black flame. It was as if he had transformed into a majestic demon god. Then, facing the oncoming Zhou Donghuang, Zhongya's hands trembled. His left hand struck out, and his right hand struck out like a knife. It was as if he wanted to kill Zhou Donghuang after he had forced him back. Do you think that by transforming your Dharma power into armor, you can cover up the weakness of your Dharma power? Facing the oncoming Zhongya, Zhou Donghuang's lips curled into a mocking smile. Then, the hand that was holding the fan shook violently, and the fan flew out of his hand. Whoosh! The fan flew through the air, and almost brushed past Zhongya's left palm, causing Zhongya's palm to miss. At the same time, Zhou Donghuang's body also brushed past Zhongya's palm, and at the same time, he reached out his hand and grabbed the fan back. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Even Zhongya himself did not expect Zhou Donghuang to be able to react in such a short period of time and dodge his left palm. His left palm was aimed at the wrist of Zhou Donghuang's hand that was holding the folding fan, not at the folding fan. What a terrifying reaction speed! Zhongya's heart trembled. This was the first time he had met such a terrifying person. It was as if Zhou Donghuang was always able to predict his opponent's movements and gain the upper hand. It was as if he was not fighting with a 20-year-old youth, but an old monster who had been through hundreds of battles. But, so what if he dodged my palm? My palm blade can easily stop him. Zhongya's right palm blade whistled through the air, forming a long and narrow black blade that slashed towards Zhou Donghuang's waist. The sound of the blade was ear-piercing, and it struck fear into everyone's hearts. If he doesn't dodge, he will definitely die. Zhongya's eyes narrowed, and his face revealed a hint of madness. As for me, at most, I will suffer some light injuries. Just as the black blade was about to split Zhou Donghuang's body into two, at the critical moment, the lower half of Zhou Donghuang's body shone with a silver light, and the lower half of his body strangely folded together with his upper body. It was as if he had no bones and could be folded at will. This had completely overturned Zhongya's and everyone else's understanding of the human body. The human body could be used like this? Buzz! Zhongya's right hand was like a knife, and after his left hand had missed, his palm also missed. How is this possible? Seeing how Zhou Donghuang had evaded his confident strike, Zhongya's expression changed, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. At the same time, he hurriedly mobilized the remaining energy in his body, wanting to launch another attack. However, at this moment, the lower half of Zhou Donghuang's body, which had been folded from the waist down, straightened up, and his entire body borrowed the force of the straightening and shot towards Zhongya like an arrow released from a bow. Not good. Hurriedly, Zhongya activated the remaining true origin in his body with all his might, turning it into a hole, causing the black armor on the surface of his body to become darker and darker. Buzz! Faced with Zhou Donghuang's folding fan, Zhongya could feel the silver light emanating from the folding fan. Zhongya clasped his hands together and pushed them out, as if intending to forcefully block Zhou Donghuang's attack. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Zhou Donghuang's folding fan flew through the air, bringing with it a sharp silver light. It met with Zhongya's clasped hands and was blocked. Young man, the power of a Dharma adept is far beyond your imagination. After blocking Zhou Donghuang's attack, Zhongya grinned and said, "Next, I will give you a quick death. To be able to become the first revenant that I, Zhongya, have ever killed after becoming a Dharma adept, you will not have wasted your life." At this moment, Zhongya seemed to have won. Whoosh! Zhou Donghuang sneered, and at the same time, his right hand, which was holding onto the folding fan, shook violently. In that instant, Zhongya's heart had a bad premonition. With a shake of his hands, he tried to grab the folding fan in Zhou Donghuang's hands. However, the folding fan in Zhou Donghuang's hands was like a loach, slippery and slippery. No matter how hard Zhongya tried to grab it, it easily escaped from Zhongya's hands. No. Almost at the same time that the folding fan escaped from Zhongya's hands, Zhongya seemed to realize something. His face changed, and at the same time, he let out a pained scream. Whoosh! The folding fan that escaped from Zhongya's hands was like a wild beast that had escaped from its cage. It was like a fish in the sea, a bird in the sky, and a silver light flashed in the air. Whoosh! Fresh blood splattered everywhere. Whoosh! A head flew into the sky. Zhongya had followed in the footsteps of the primal core adepts of the Xianin sect who had died at the hands of Zhou Donghuang. On the 10th of October 1233 of the Ziyun era, after 3 years, Zhou Donghuang, at the feast of Ziyun, killed the Xianin sect elder, Zhongya, who had already entered the Dharma stage, in front of all the guests of the Ziyun planet. This was to settle the karma that Zhongya had formed with Zhou Donghuang in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Because of this, Zhongya became the shortest-lived Dharma adept in the history of the Ziyun planet. He had not even entered the Dharma stage for 3 days, and he was already killed. The battle between Zhou Donghuang and Zhongya was extremely fast. Everyone present either did not see it clearly, or they did not dare to be distracted, afraid that they would miss out on any exciting scenes. Hence, from the start of the battle until the end, the entire feast of Ziyun was extremely quiet. Seeing Zhongya's head fly into the sky, he had been killed. Although the entire crowd remained silent, the sound of Zhongya's body hitting the ground still caused their hearts to tremble. The third Dharma adept in the history of the Ziyun planet in the past 1,000 years had died just like that? No, impossible. Impossible. Among the crowd of people who had been shocked by Zhongya's death, Chen Dandan was the first to regain her senses. Her face was filled with shock and disbelief, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Brother has won. On the back of the golden-crowned eagle, Little Gold, Yunlu's face was flushed with excitement, and Little Gold's eyes were also filled with excitement. So what if he was a Dharma adept? He had still been killed by its young master, Chen Dandan. It was only when Zhou Donghuang's voice rang out again that the crowd of people present finally regained their senses. They all gasped, and the way they looked at Zhou Donghuang was completely different. Other than fear, there was only fear. Although this young man in snow-white robes was only a silver core cultivator, his strength had already reached a shocking level. Golden essence adepts could be easily killed by him. Dharma adepts could also be easily killed by him. Who is he? Where did this demon come from? Is this demon really from the Ziyun planet? As the crowd of people looked at Zhou Donghuang in fear, Zhou Donghuang had already stepped into the air above where Chen Dandan was. He looked down at Chen Dandan, his face expressionless. When Zhou Donghuang stared at Chen Dandan, the crowd of people who were originally standing beside Chen Dandan were all frightened into scattering in all directions. They kept their distance from Chen Dandan, afraid that they would be implicated. Zhou Donghuang, looking up at the young man in white before her, Chen Dandan's face was filled with despair. She had never thought that even with the Xianin sect as her backing, she would still not be able to defeat him in the end. The martial invalid of the past was now standing at the pinnacle of the Ziyun planet. She was very clear, after today's battle, the young man before her had already reached the pinnacle of the Ziyun planet. Even the other 4 sects of the Ziyun planet could only bow to him and not dare to offend him. Did she regret it? Of course she did. If she had not betrayed her adoptive mother and the person before her because of her own selfish desires, she might have already been married to him under her adoptive mother's orders. And she, Chen Dandan, could have relied on the glory of the person before her to become the most powerful person in the entire Ziyun planet. Unfortunately, one wrong step led to many wrong steps. I've already said what I have to say 3 years ago. I've already asked what I have to ask 3 years ago. Zhou Donghuang looked down at Chen Dandan, his lips curling in a mocking smile. Before you die, do you have anything to say, Chen Dandan? Chen Dandan took a deep breath. Winner takes all. I have nothing to say. 3 years ago, Chen Dandan knew that the person before her would not let her off. He would definitely kill her. So today, although she really wanted to live, even if it was just to live, she knew that the other party would not give her a chance. She would die standing, and she would die kneeling. Why shouldn't she die standing? Since that is the case, you may go. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the silver flames on Zhou Donghuang's body left his body and formed a huge palm print in the air, crashing down on Chen Dandan's head. Bang! A loud sound rang out, the ground shook, and dust filled the air. The crowd felt their scalps go numb. When the dust settled, a huge palm print appeared where Chen Dandan had been standing. Within the palm print, there was blood everywhere, as well as some remnants of her dress and hair. Chen Dandan, who should have died in the Valley of the Medicine Masters 3 years ago, had finally died after living for 3 more years. However, 3 years later, there were many more people who had died with Chen Dandan. After Chen Dandan's death, the crowd was still silent. Everyone present looked up at the white figure in the air, not daring to breathe too loudly. They were deeply afraid that if they opened their mouths and broke the silence, they would anger the other party. Lord Tuajin. Zhou Donghuang turned around and looked at the middle-aged monk sitting in the first row of the audience where the people of the Divine Light sect were. He said calmly, "What do you think?" As soon as Zhou Donghuang said this, everyone present could not make heads or tails of his words. The Divine Light sect will obey Lord Donghuang's orders. Almost as soon as Zhou Donghuang finished speaking, the Divine Light sect leader, Tuajin, immediately stood up and bowed respectfully in response. The next moment, under the confused gazes of the crowd, Tuajin gave the order, and the few golden essence adepts of the Divine Light sect rushed towards the remaining Khanate adepts of the Xianin sect. Like wolves entering a flock of sheep, in the blink of an eye, the Khanate adepts of the Xianin sect were all killed. This scene also stunned everyone present. End of this chapter. Chapter 206. The leader of the Divine Light sect, Tuajin, had ordered the Divine Light sect to kill the Xianin sect disciples. This was something that no one present had expected, and it made them even more confused. How had the people of the Divine Light sect suddenly become the pawns of this young man in white? Leader Tuajin. After the primal core adepts of the Divine Light sect had killed all the Khanate adepts of the Xianin sect like wolves in a flock of sheep, Zhou Donghuang greeted the leader of the Divine Light sect, Tuajin. At the same time, his gaze swept across the spectator stands where the Qianqiu sect, the Xuesha sect, and the Tianwu sect were seated. Just now, someone seemed to have spoken rudely to me. As soon as Zhou Donghuang said this, the faces of the leaders of the 3 sects changed. Just as the leaders of the 3 major sects rose from their seats and were about to apologize, Zhou Donghuang spoke first. Each of the 3 sects will compensate me 100,000 spirit stones as compensation for the psychological damage I have suffered. I want to see the spirit stones before 1234 of the Ziyun era. If any of the sects do not cooperate, Leader Tuajin, please let me know. I, Zhou Donghuang, will personally go and collect them. I will also find their golden essence adepts to spar with. As soon as he said this, a cold light flashed in Zhou Donghuang's eyes, causing the faces of the leaders of the 3 sects to change. 100,000 spirit stones? Furthermore, if the 3 sects did not cooperate, this young man would personally come to them? Find a golden essence adept to spar with? The Xianin sect's golden essence adept, Qi Ming, had been killed in an instant, and he had even killed a Dharma adept. The golden essence adepts of the 3 sects were definitely no match for him. Spar? Who would believe that? He was clearly threatening them. If they dared not pay the spirit stones, he would kill the golden essence adepts of the sects behind them as interest. Yes, Lord Donghuang. Tuajin hurriedly replied as he looked at the leaders of the 3 sections. 3 leaders, when you return, bring the spirit stones to the Divine Light sect. Remember, Send them before 1234 of the Ziyun era. Tuo Jin reminded them intentionally. At the same time, Tuo Jin was somewhat relieved. Fortunately, the Divine Light sect had long known how terrifying the young man before them was. Otherwise, it would not only be the three sects who would be in trouble, but the Divine Light sect as well. My lord. Hu Qingshua, the sect leader of the Xuexia sect, looked at Zhou Donghuang with an ugly expression. He spoke first. Just now, my words offended you. I can apologize and compensate you with some spirit stones. But, isn't 100,000 spirit stones too much? As he spoke, Hu Qingshua could not help but reveal some anger in his tone. He felt that the actions of the person before him were no different from extortion. At the same time, both the Thousand-Year sect leader and the Tianwu sect leader looked at Zhou Donghuang. Hu Qingshua, the sect master of Blood Fiend sect, voiced their thoughts. Too many. Zhou Donghuang's eyes narrowed, and he turned around lazily. He looked at Hu Qingshua and said, 200,000 spirit stones. As soon as Zhou Donghuang said this, the entire place fell silent again. Everyone looked at Zhou Donghuang as if they had seen a ghost, feeling that this young man was too ruthless. Sir, you must be joking, right? Hu Qingshua was so angry that his face was red. He suppressed his anger and asked in a low voice. The entire spirit stone storage of the Xuexia sect only added up to a little more than 200,000 spirit stones. The young man before him was asking for an exorbitant amount of spirit stones that the Xuexia sect had accumulated for thousands of years. At the same time, the other people of the Xuexia sect also looked at Zhou Donghuang angrily. They had never imagined that this young man would be so overboard. 200,000 spirit stones? Why didn't he just rob them? This time, Zhou Donghuang's response to Hu Qingshua was a casual palm strike. Bang! The solid palm print was not as fancy as when he had killed Chen Dandan. When it landed on Hu Qingshua's body, it was like a heavy pile driver falling on his head. He was directly smashed into the hard ground and turned into a pile of meat paste. He was as dead as he could be. The dignified sect leader of the Xuexia sect, a late primal core adept, had died just like that. The expressions of the remaining people of the Xuexia sect changed drastically, and they became even more furious. However, they all lowered their heads, not daring to look up. What a joke! What if Zhou Donghuang killed them in a fit of rage? Although the crowd of onlookers from all over Ziyun were not from the three main sects, they could not help but feel their scalps go numb. They only felt that the young man in white before them was too overbearing. Of course, they all knew in their hearts this young man had the ability to be overbearing. When we return to the Xuexia sect, tell the person who can make the decision. 200,000 spirit stones, not a single one less. Zhou Donghuang swept his gaze over the people of the Xuexia sect and the Tianwu sect as he spoke. When Zhou Donghuang's gaze once again swept over the leaders of the Qianqiu sect and the Tianwu sect, the two of them hurriedly bowed and lowered their heads. My lord, we will personally deliver 100,000 spirit stones to the Divine Light sect when we return. Zhou Donghuang nodded. Seeing that both of your sects have been cooperative, I will give each of your sects 2 spirit weapons. As he finished speaking, Zhou Donghuang casually tossed 2 swords and 2 knives to the leaders of the Qianqiu sect and the Tianwu sect as if he were throwing away trash. The 2 sect leaders each kept a knife and a sword. After testing the knives and swords in their hands, their eyes lit up. They looked at each other and saw the wild joy in each other's eyes. It's really a spirit weapon. The two of them said in unison. The resentment in their hearts was swept away in an instant, replaced by excitement. 100,000 spirit stones in exchange for 2 spirit weapons. They had made a profit. At this moment, not only did the people of the Qianqiu sect and the Tianwu sect think that they had made a profit, but the crowd of onlookers also felt that they had made a profit, and a big one at that. One had to know, before this, there were only 2 spirit weapons in the entire Ziyun planet. The people of the Xuesha sect were so angry that they almost vomited blood. Not only did their Xuesha sect not get a single spirit weapon, but they also had to pay 200,000 spirit stones. Now, they more or less had some resentment towards the dead Xuesha sect leader, Hu Qingshua. After all, it was precisely because Hu Qingshua had stood out that the Xuesha sect had suffered such a huge loss. Otherwise, not only would the Xuesha sect not have suffered a loss, they would have even made a profit. Leader Tua Jin, lead the way. Zhou Donghuang returned to the golden-crowned eagle Little Gold's back. After returning to Yun Lu's side, he looked at the Divine Light sect leader Tua Jin and asked him to lead the way to the Xianin sect. Yes. Tua Jin replied. Before he moved, he looked at the leaders of the Qianqiu sect and the Tianwu sect. The 2 of you, the Divine Light sect, will follow Lord Donghuang to the Xianin sect. Will you come with us? Without waiting for a response, Tua Jin led the group of Primal Core adepts from the Divine Light sect into the air and headed towards the Xianin sect. The golden-crowned eagle Little Gold also moved under the watchful eyes of the crowd, following closely behind the group of people from the Divine Light sect. After the leaders of the Qianqiu sect and the Tianwu sect regained their senses, they hurriedly brought their people to follow. Now, they had all guessed why Zhou Donghuang and the people from the Divine Light sect were going to the Xianin sect. After today, the Xianin sect will cease to exist. Because of the spirit weapons that Zhou Donghuang had given them, the people from the 2 sects were in a very good mood. They were also happy to help Zhou Donghuang and curry his favor. Therefore, when they reached the Xianin sect, Zhou Donghuang did not need to do anything himself. Zhou Donghuang directly found the secret storeroom of the Xianin sect and swept away all the spirit stones and valuable items that the Xianin sect had accumulated over the years. In fact, he didn't even have enough space rings. Fortunately, he had just killed a group of senior members of the Xianin sect and the Xuesha sect leader in Xianyan City and obtained their space rings, which were barely enough. Leader Tua Jin, your Divine Light sect, already knew how terrifying Lord Donghuang was? Yi Wen, the leader of the Tianwu sect, asked after he and the leader of the Divine Light sect, Tua Jin, had killed many elders of the Xianin sect. He felt that at the feast of Ziyun, the people from the Divine Light sect had not spoken a word of disrespect to Zhou Donghuang. Furthermore, from the conversation between Zhou Donghuang and Tua Jin, it was obvious that they had known each other for a long time and had even come to some kind of agreement. I already knew that Lord Donghuang had the ability to kill Golden Essence adepts, but I never imagined that he could even kill Dharma adepts. Tua Jin sighed. If he had known that Zhou Donghuang had the ability to kill Zhongya, who had entered the Dharma stage, the Golden Essence elder of the Divine Light sect, Ci Xian, would not have needed to leave because he was afraid of Zhongya. Leader Tua Jin, after the Xianin sect was destroyed, the Xianin sect's base was left empty. It is a good place, there is a spirit stone mine below. Yi Wen's eyes flashed. Lord Donghuang, did you say what to do with the spirit stone mine? The spirit stone mine of the Xianin sect was even larger than the one of the Tianwu sect, and it produced more spirit stones every year. The Divine Light sect will move here, Tua Jin said. Tua Jin said, this will be the new base of the Divine Light sect. The Divine Light sect is moving here? And it is moving the entire sect? Yi Wen's eyes widened. What about your original base? The spirit stone mine on the Xinguang Peak where the Divine Light sect used to be was much larger than the one here. The original base? Tua Jin smiled. That place will be left for Lord Donghuang. This was also the agreement that Zhou Donghuang had made with the Divine Light sect when he had gone to the Divine Light sect. The Divine Light sect would move away from the Xinguang Peak and change their base to the Xianin sects. For this, Zhou Donghuang had promised to forge a spirit weapon for every Divine Light sect adept of the late Primal Core stage and above. Because of this, both Tua Jin, the leader of the Divine Light sect, and the rest of the senior members of the Divine Light sect were very satisfied with this deal. The destruction of the Xianin sect had been decided when Zhongya had taken Chen Dandan away 3 years ago. The karma that had been formed 3 years ago was finally resolved on this day. It looks like Lord Donghuang has given the Divine Light sect a lot of benefits. Seeing that Tuo Jin was not only not unhappy about the change of the Divine Light sect's base, but even seemed happy, it was not difficult for Yi Wen to guess. End of this chapter. Chapter 207. Big Brother, are you going to leave soon? In the sky above the Xianin sect, Yunlu looked at Zhou Donghuang from the back of the golden-crowned eagle, Little Gold. Her face was unusually serious. Zhou Donghuang smiled dotingly and stroked Yunlu's hair. After I bring mother to the Shengguang Peak and prepare everything, I will leave. Zhou Donghuang had already mentioned to Yunlu that he was going to leave Ziyun, and now that Yunlu had asked him about it, he did not hide it. Big Brother, will you come back? Yunlu asked again. Of course. Zhou Donghuang nodded confidently. I will miss you, when I come back, I will definitely bring you something good. I don't want anything good. I just hope that you will come back often. Yunlu said seriously. Good, good, good. Zhou Donghuang smiled as he glanced at the Xianin sect. There were swords everywhere, and the battle was completely one-sided. There was no doubt about the outcome. The strongest people in the Xianin sect had already been killed by him at the Feast of Ziyun. Even the strongest of those who had stayed behind to guard the Xianin sect's camp were no match for the Divine Light sect leader, Tuo Jin. Not to mention the fact that there were also the leaders of the Thousand-Year sect and the Tianwu sect who had attacked the Xianin sect. In just an hour, everything had been settled. Lord Donghuang, when I return, I will immediately bring 100,000 spirit stones to the Divine Light sect and let Tuo Jin pass it to you. The leader of the Tianwu sect, Yi Wen, led a group of people from the Tianwu sect and bowed to Zhou Donghuang. He said hurriedly, also, Lord Donghuang, if you have time in the future, you can come to the Tianwu sect as a guest. The Tianwu sect will treat you with the highest level of hospitality. Lord Donghuang, I will also send the spirit stones as soon as possible. Also, the Thousand-Year sect welcomes you anytime. The leader of the Thousand-Year sect said respectfully. The leaders of the two sects knew very well that in the battle at the Feast of Ziyun, the young man in white before them had become a god. This young man had the ability to dominate the entire Ziyun planet, and he was undoubtedly the most powerful person in the Ziyun planet. Such an existence could only be a friend, not an enemy. Yes. Zhou Donghuang nodded slightly at the two of them, and then looked at the leader of the Divine Light sect, Tuo Jin. Leader Tuo Jin, I will go back now to fetch him. After you go back, make some preparations. Yes, Lord Donghuang. As Tuo Jin replied respectfully, the golden-crowned eagle flapped its wings and disappeared into the clouds with the siblings. Only when the golden-crowned eagle Little Gold's figure disappeared into the clouds did the people of the three sects retract their respectful gazes. Sect leader Tuo Jin, you are more familiar with Lord Donghuang. Is he really from Ziyun? After Zhou Donghuang left, celestial sect leader Yi Wen could not help but ask Tuo Jin. In the 1,000-plus-year history of the Ziyun planet, this was the first time such a heaven-defying figure had appeared. He even wondered if the other party was from the Ziyun planet. The Thousand-Year sect leader also looked at Tuo Jin. It was obvious that he was also curious about this. Sect leader Yi, I know what you're thinking. Tuo Jin sighed. But Lord Donghuang is indeed a citizen of Ziyun. Who would have thought that our Ziyun planet would have such a godly talent? The Thousand-Year sect leader sighed. When the people who came to Xianyan City for the Feast of Ziyun go back and spread the news, it will not be long before the name, Zhou Donghuang, is known throughout the entire Ziyun planet. Yi Wen sighed. I can imagine that for a long time in the history of the Ziyun planet, his name will be remembered by everyone. In front of him, the few Dharma adepts in the history of the Ziyun planet will pale in comparison. They will not be able to compete with him. It was just as the celestial sect leader Yiwen had said. In the short span of a few months, everywhere on the planet of Ziyun, except for those remote and desolate places like the 16 countries of the East Valley and the 14 countries of southern Jiang, people from other places had basically heard of the name Zhou Donghuang, which they had never heard of before. Zhou Donghuang. A late primal core adept that defied the laws of nature. Why was he said to be heaven-defying? He was only in his early 20s. He had instantly killed the Xianin sect's Golden Essence adept, Qi Ming, and he had even killed Xianin sect's Dharma adept, Zhongya. He had single-handedly destroyed one of the 5 major sects of the Ziyun planet, the Xianin sect. Even if all the Golden Essence adepts of the 4 major sects of the Ziyun planet were combined, they would still be no match for him. Most importantly, he is still young and has unlimited potential. Zhou Donghuang will become a legendary figure in the history of the Ziyun planet. Lord Donghuang is the common goal of all the adepts of the Ziyun planet. In the entire Ziyun planet, whether it was the adepts who had seen Zhou Donghuang fight in Xianyan City or the adepts who had only heard of Zhou Donghuang but had never seen him, they all regarded Zhou Donghuang as their life goal. There were also some adepts who had seen Zhou Donghuang in Xianyan City who carved statues of Zhou Donghuang based on their memories and placed them in their sects and families as a form of faith. Zhou Donghuang was naturally unaware of all this. After leaving the Xianin sect, he had brought his sister Yunlu back to the Valley of the Medicine Masters and brought his mother and the rest to the Shengguang sect's base, Shengguang Peak. Su Mo, the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, immediately gave the order. The Valley of the Medicine Masters was dissolved. The Donghuang sect was established. His master, Zhou Donghuang, was the founder of the Donghuang sect and the first sect leader. He was the deputy sect leader and was responsible for managing the affairs of the Donghuang sect. After the Divine Light sect moved away from Shengguang Peak became the base of the Donghuang sect and was renamed Donghuang Peak. The Shengguang Empire was renamed Donghuang Empire. As for the original base of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, it was not abandoned and became the base of the Donghuang sect. Lu Qinghu, the patriarch of the Lu family in Yunfeng Prefecture of the western Chu Ridge of Yunyang, was the Donghuang sect leader. Announced to the various countries of the 16 countries of the East Valley that the Valley of the Medicine Masters is disbanded and the Donghuang sect is established. Make a book of the deeds of our Donghuang sect leader and send it to the various royal families of the 16 countries of the East Valley so that they can distribute it to every corner of the 16 countries of the East Valley. Following the orders of Lu Qinghu, it was not long before everyone in the 16 countries of the East Valley knew of Zhou Donghuang's deeds. They also knew that from now on, the master of the 16 countries of the East Valley was no longer the Valley of the Medicine Masters, but the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The Valley of the Medicine Masters had already been incorporated into the Donghuang sect. The former head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Su Mo, now served the Donghuang sect leader, Zhou Donghuang, as his master. I never thought that the legendary primal core adepts would be so common on our planet of Ziyun. The 5 great empires, the 5 great sects of Ziyun, I've never heard of them before. It turns out that our 16 countries of the East Valley is just a rural area on the planet of Ziyun. The 5 great empires are really something to look forward to. I never thought that one of the 5 great sects of Ziyun, the Xianin sect, would be destroyed by someone from our 16 countries of the East Valley, and that person is now the most powerful person on the planet of Ziyun. He single-handedly established the Donghuang sect, and even the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters respects him as his master. He seems to be from the country of Yunyang. It is said that in the future, the Donghuang sect will come to the capital of the 16 countries of the East Valley to recruit disciples every year. The outstanding martial arts geniuses may even be sent to the main Donghuang sect. And the main Donghuang sect is very close to the Donghuang Empire. Year 1234 of the Ziyun era. For the people of the 16 countries of the East Valley, this year was destined to be unforgettable. This year, they learned of many things that they had never heard before. This year, they learned that an extraordinary person had emerged from the 16 countries of the East Valley, and now he was the Donghuang sect leader who controlled the nearby Donghuang Empire. Of course, the people who were most shocked by all this were the people of the country of Yunyang, one of the 16 countries of the East Valley. Zhou Donghuang, is it really that Zhou Donghuang? It seems so. The members of the preeminent Lu family in the capital of Yunfeng Prefecture under the western ridge of the Chu King have all been taken to the Donghuang sect, and the Lu family is on good terms with Zhou Donghuang. The head of the Lu family, Lu Qinghu, has always followed Zhou Donghuang's lead. A preeminent family has soared to the skies and is now above the royal families of the 16 countries of the East Valley. It is said that the Donghuang sect leader is Lu Qinghu. Moreover, it is said that Lu Qinghu is now a primal core adept. When a man achieves the Tao, his fowls and dogs follow him. In the Chu royal city of the western ridge of the Chu King, a group of senior members of the Chu royal household gathered together. As they spoke, they all smiled bitterly and sighed. Back then, if they had not become enemies with Zhou Donghuang and had instead been on good terms with him, perhaps they would also have soared to the skies now. Many members of the Tycoon Tang family, led by Tang Liuyan, were taken away by the people of the Donghuang sect a few days ago. There are also some members of the Grand Ren family who have been led by First Mistress Ren Jiape to the Donghuang sect. It is said that First Mistress Ren Jiape will be sent directly to the main Donghuang sect. This is normal. Not only is Ren Jiape on good terms with Yang Zishi, who is by Zhou Donghuang's side, but she is also on good terms with Zhou Donghuang himself. It is said that many members of the Yang family were so angry that they vomited blood. Who would have thought that the young Khanate stage of the past is now standing at the top of the Ziyun planet, invincible? Qingshan Town. The Qin family household. Sister Xiaoyu, Uncle Zhen, big brother asked me to come and fetch you. A huge black eagle floated in the air above the front yard of the Qin family household, and on its back stood a little girl of about 8 or 9 years old. When she spoke, her voice seemed to contain some sort of magical power, and it instantly spread throughout the entire Qin family household. Very quickly, many people gathered in the front yard of the Qin family household. It's Miss Yunlu, young Master Donghuang's sister. She has personally come to fetch Xiaoyu and Elder Qin Zhen. Xiaoyu and Elder Qin Zhen are being taken to the main Donghuang sect. Now, even the people of Qingshan Town, which was a remote place, knew about Zhou Donghuang's deeds. There was even a statue of Zhou Donghuang standing at the side of the main entrance of Yunxian restaurant in Qingshan Town, and a stone tablet beside the statue was carved with the various deeds of Zhou Donghuang after he had left Qingshan Town. End of this chapter. Chapter 208. Sometimes, a single choice could determine the course of a person's life. In the country of Yunyang, those who were on good terms with Zhou Donghuang would definitely rise to the Khanate stage, or even the primal core stage. But those who were on bad terms with Zhou Donghuang were all filled with regret. Just like now. Seeing the young lady and the middle-aged man follow the little girl onto the back of the giant eagle and disappear into the clouds, the senior members of the lesser Qin family of Qinglin Town were filled with regret. Our Qin family has missed the chance to rise to the top. That year, if we had not stopped the old chief from taking Xiaoyu as his adopted daughter, the Qin family and young Master Donghuang would not have fallen out. I regret it. I regret it. Xiaoyu and Qin Zhen will definitely rise to the top. And we will only be able to look up to them in the future. It was not just the lesser Qin family of Qinglin Town who felt regret. There were many others who felt regret. For example, the preeminent Lin family of Yunfeng Prefecture. If the Lin family had not chased Lin Lan out of the family, Zhou Donghuang would have become a foreign disciple of the Lin family, and his relationship with the Lin family would have been much closer than with the Lu family. But because of a wrong decision by the Lin family, their relationship with Lin Lan was completely severed, and they had missed Zhou Donghuang. The Lu family has all gone to the Donghuang subsect, where the Donghuang subsect used to be in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. It is said that anyone from the Lu family with some talent has a chance to be sent to the main Donghuang subsect. For example, the son of the former chief of the Lu family, Lu Qinghu, Lu Yuan, has been sent to the main Donghuang subsect. I heard that Lu Qinghu is now a primal core adept. I remember that in the past, he was not even as strong as the chief of the Lin family. If the chief had not chased Lin Lan out of the family, he would already be a primal core adept. The position of chief of the Donghuang subsect would definitely belong to the chief as well. One wrong step, and everything else goes wrong. Oh my God! Our Lin family has missed out on a great opportunity. Within the Lin family estate, the group of Lin family elders and disciples beat their chests and stamped their feet. They even secretly cursed the patriarch for being blind and causing the Lin family to miss such a good opportunity to rise to the top in a single bound. As for the chief of the Lin family, Lin Zhuiyue, he had been so angry that he had been bedridden after learning of Zhou Donghuang's achievements. Now, everyone in the capital city of Yunfeng Prefecture was laughing at Lin Zhuiyue, the head of the Lin family, for being so blind as to reject such a great opportunity. Ha ha ha. Chen Dandan, hi. Good kill. Good kill. The first young master of the Hong family, Hong Yunfei, had been chased out of the Valley of the Medicine Masters by Chen Dandan. After returning to the Hong family in the capital of Yunfeng Prefecture, he had shut himself in to practice and rarely left the house. When he found out that Zhou Donghuang had killed Chen Dandan in Xianyan City, he was overjoyed and felt that his revenge had been avenged. Zhuiyue Zhous of the Lin Wu of Zhou of S Zhous of family, Hong Lin Wei's Lin of the Hongs of Yang Yang's Yuns with families. Hong Wei, the head of the Hong family, was filled with regret. Otherwise, even if I'm not doing as well as Lu Qinghu, I wouldn't be too far off. Now, he was just a mere qi-gathering adept. And Lu Qinghu was already a primal core adept. He had to look up to even a Khanate adept, much less a primal core adept. Father. I am preparing to participate in the assessment that the Donghuang subsect is organizing in Yunyang country this year. I want to pass the assessment and become a disciple of the Donghuang subsect. Hong Yunfei said to Hong Wei with a serious face, the current Donghuang subsect is even stronger than its predecessor, the Valley of the Medicine Masters. I want to fight to enter the Donghuang subsect. Of course, there was one more thing he did not say. He wanted to meet the legendary chief of the Donghuang sect, Zhou Donghuang, and thank him in person for killing Chen Dandan and indirectly avenging him. Zhou Donghuang, he actually has such achievements. In the Li family household, Li Rui's face was pale. She had never imagined that in just a few years, Zhou Donghuang would already be standing at the top of the Ziyun planet. Now, Zhou Donghuang was equivalent to the sky of the Ziyun planet. With just a word, he could decide the life and death of anyone in the Ziyun planet. This was the power of a king. The Donghuang Peak was now the base of the Donghuang sect. Of course, the Donghuang sect had not yet recruited disciples. The Divine Light sect had relocated, leaving not a single elder or disciple behind. Of course, this was also because Zhou Donghuang did not ask the Divine Light sect to stay. Otherwise, with just a word from him, the Divine Light sect would definitely keep whoever he wanted. Sister Jiape, I know you like Brother Zhou too. In a quiet courtyard halfway up the Donghuang Peak, Yang Zishi was sitting with Ren Jiape, who had just arrived at the Donghuang sect not long ago. She held Ren Jiape's hand tightly as she confided in her heart. Sister Zishi, don't worry. I won't fight with you. Ren Jiape forced a smile. Sister Jiape, that's not what I meant. Yang Zishi shook her head. I just wanted to tell you that if you really like Brother Zhou, you don't have to worry about me. Because, even I, in front of Brother Zhou, I am just a latecomer. Yang Zishi sighed. Big Brother Zhou already has someone in his heart. Who? Ren Jiape's eyes narrowed. She had always felt that if brother Zhou wanted to find a good match, sister Zixi would be his first choice. But now, sister Zixi was telling her, brother Zhou already has someone he likes? I don't know either. I only know that she is not from the planet of Xian. I've asked Xiao Lu, and she said. Brother Zhou's sweetheart was already a primal core adept at the age of 20. A 20-year-old primal core adept who is not from the planet of Xian must have an extraordinary background. Her future achievements will be limitless. I'm telling you all this mainly to tell you, if you really like brother Zhou and don't mind him having more than one woman at the same time, you have to work hard and try to catch up to that sister. That's what I think too. That's the only way I can help big brother Zhou and even gain his approval. Yang Zixi had kept these words in her heart for a long time, and she only said them in front of Ren Jiape. Ren Jiape fell silent. After a while, Ren Jiape's eyes shone with determination. Of course, even if we do this, we may not be able to be with brother Zhou in the future. When it comes to relationships, it's about mutual affection. But I feel that since I like brother Zhou, even if we can't be together in the end, I should do more for him and share his burdens. Yang Zixi paused, her eyes dazed with infatuation. To be able to see his gratified smile, I think it's worth it. In another secluded courtyard not far away, Lin Lan stood there, looking at Yang Zixi and Ren Jiape from afar. She let out a long sigh. Such good girls. If only they could all be my daughters-in-law. Miss, young Master Donghuang has already grown up. When it comes to relationships, let nature take its course. Granny Lian stood behind Lin Lan and said with a smile. Sometimes, I really don't know what that child Donghuang is thinking. Lin Lan shook her head. Forget it, anyway, he's about to leave the Xian planet to do what he wants to do. If he establishes a relationship with these two girls before he leaves, it would be unfair to them. At least, from the looks of it now, even if Donghuang leaves, they won't have to suffer too much. As she spoke, Lin Lan raised her head and looked at the higher part of the Donghuang peak. Donghuang should be done setting up those spells. When that time comes, he will also leave. In the depths of Lin Lan's eyes, there was a hint of reluctance to part. Of course, although she was reluctant, she had no intention of forcing her son to stay, because she knew that her son had his own path to follow. A 23-year-old golden essence adept, the Xian planet can't contain him. Lin Lan sighed softly. At the top of the Donghuang peak, Zhou Donghuang, dressed in a robe whiter than snow, stood in the air. Using his finger as a brush, he gathered his golden inner yuan and drew all sorts of complicated patterns and lines on the cliff face. Whoosh! 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 After carving for a while, he raised his hand, and spirit stones were inserted into some of the patterns as if they were free. He was setting up a protective spell for the Donghuang sect. This would be the first protective spell for the Xian planet. Whether it was the other four major sects of the Xian planet or the Xianin sect that Zhou Donghuang had destroyed, none of them had protective spells. In the boundless universe, protective spells were usually only available to sects that had adepts at the primordial soul stage and above. This was because protective spells required too many resources, and ordinary sects could not afford them at all. Even the protective spell that Zhou Donghuang was setting up now was made up of the weakest protective spell that he could remember. Otherwise, the resources that he had on hand would not have been enough to sustain the consumption of a protective spell. Defensive spells, as well as other spells, I don't want them all. I only want offensive spells. For the offensive spell, just the spirit stones that I've inserted are enough to activate it 3 times. Once the offensive spell is activated, even an early Dharma adept would not be able to escape death. If it is unexpected, it would be enough to seriously injure a mid-Dharma adept. This was also a trump card that Zhou Donghuang had left behind before he left. He would hand it over to his mother, Lin Lan, and his sister, Yun Lu. Done. Half a month later, Zhou Donghuang had successfully set up the spell. Of course, these few days, he did not spend all his time setting up the spell, and the protective spell was not the only one he set up. There were also a few energy-gathering spells. During this time, Zhou Donghuang had been practicing, and in his spare time, setting up the spell did not affect his practice. In the next 2 days, I'll spend time with Mother and Xiao Lu. After 2 days, I'll leave the Ziyun planet. It was late at night, and Zhou Donghuang looked up at the stars in the sky, his eyes filled with anticipation and excitement. He was finally going to leave the Ziyun planet. He was even more excited now than when he had left Earth in his previous life. End of this chapter. Chapter 209. While he was setting up the Donghuang Peak, Zhou Donghuang not only did not neglect his practice, but he also forged ultimate and superior spirit weapons for those close to him. At the same time, he also produced a large batch of core drugs. Of course, he also left some core drugs for his mother, Lin Lan. His mother, as a woman, was meticulous. Furthermore, she practiced the technique of everlasting youth, and after entering the primal core stage, she could produce a core fire that was very suitable for refining core drugs. Furthermore, from the fact that his mother liked to use some of the prescriptions he gave her to make medicine, it was clear that she was very interested in medicine and core drugs. Putting all these together, it was not difficult to see that his mother had the potential to become an outstanding core-forging master. Donghuang, with your ability, if you stay on the Ziyun planet, I have nothing to worry about, but, if you leave the Ziyun planet, it means that there are countless hidden dangers waiting for you, Lin Lan said to Zhou Donghuang with a serious expression. So, I only have one request for you. Be careful. Lin Lan said solemnly to Zhou Donghuang. Mother, don't worry. Zhou Donghuang smiled confidently. In his previous life, he had traveled the boundless universe alone for thousands of years before he had a strong level of practice that allowed him to stand at the top of the universe. With the experience of his previous life, the boundless universe was not unknown to him, and everything was a walk in the park for him. Brother, you have to come back soon, otherwise, I will miss you very, very much. Yunlu looked at Zhou Donghuang reluctantly. After so many years together, she had long regarded the young man before her as her own brother. All right, I will listen to you. Zhou Donghuang smiled dotingly. Because he had already made all the necessary preparations before he left, he spent the entire day with his mother and sister Yunlu. He told Yunlu stories and taught Lin Lan how to activate the Great Guardian Shield formation. At the same time, Zhou Donghuang also passed on some of the core drugs he had already written down to Lin Lan, so that she would not have to take the wrong path when she entered the primal core stage. Donghuang, tomorrow, spend some time with Zixi and Jiapei, they are staying together. When you want to leave, just let me know. Late at night, before Zhou Donghuang returned to his residence, Lin Lan said to him. Zhou Donghuang was stunned at first, then he nodded. Yeah. Yunlu nodded in agreement. Big brother, sister Zixi and sister Jiapei really like you. If you leave without spending some time with them, they will be very sad. You're just a little kid, but you're full of mischief. After glaring at Yunlu, Zhou Donghuang left. After returning to his room, Zhou Donghuang sat cross-legged on his bed and examined his elixir field. Now, in Zhou Donghuang's elixir field, 4 primal cores floated there, 2 of which were silver in color, and silver inner yuan flowed around them. The other 2 yuan dawn were golden in color, surrounded by golden quintessential essence. Now, the 2 silver cores were suspended in the air, motionless. The silver true essence around them did not disperse, but it did not extend outwards. The 2 golden essences continued to revolve. Even though Zhou Donghuang was not deliberately practicing, they were still circulating their qi according to the Lord of the 4 Supremes, absorbing spirit energy from the outside world as they practiced. Of course, the efficiency was not as high as when he cultivated on purpose. And this was the privilege of adepts of the ultimate primal core stage and above. Even if he did not deliberately practice, the golden essences in his elixir field would still cultivate on their own. However, because it was self-cultivation, the two golden essences only strengthened themselves and did not help the other two silver essences to cultivate. The cultivation of the two silver essences still depended on Zhou Donghuang himself. The most important thing now is to cultivate the two silver essences into golden essences. Zhou Donghuang thought to himself. Now, almost a year had passed since the feast of Ziyun was held in Xianyan City. At that time, Zhou Donghuang's elixir field had 3 silver essences and 1 solid essence. In almost a year, with the help of the rare herbs that the Xianin sect had accumulated over the years, Zhou Donghuang's level of practice had increased by leaps and bounds. Not only had the solid essence transformed into a silver essence, but 2 of the other 3 silver essences had also transformed into golden essences. With my current ability, even if the Xianin sect elder Zhongya had refined his dharma to the point where it was flawless, I would still be able to crush him with the ultimate primal core spirit weapon. Zhou Donghuang's current ability was completely different from what it had been a year ago. Tomorrow, I will have to face Zixi again, and Jiape. Thinking of Lin Lan's instructions, Zhou Donghuang felt a headache coming on. At the same time, he could not help but think of the girl named Luo Qinghan, whom he had accidentally had sex with in the past. In the past, I always thought that I liked her. But, as time passed, until now, that strange feeling towards her seems to have faded quite a bit. Come to think of it. I don't understand her, and she doesn't understand me either, so how could I like her? But, I still have to take responsibility. Regardless of whether she needs me to take responsibility or not, she is still my woman. This is a fact that has already been set in stone. Also, the women that I, Zhou Donghuang, have slept with. I will not allow any other man to touch them. As he thought of this, Zhou Donghuang's eyes suddenly shone with a cold light, which he only retracted after a while. Although I don't have any actual feelings for her now, but feelings can be slowly cultivated. The next day, Zhou Donghuang followed his mother's instructions and went to look for Yang Zixi and Ren Jiape. Perhaps because they knew that Zhou Donghuang was about to leave, Yang Zixi and Ren Jiape did not bring up any sensitive topics. Big brother Zhou, don't worry. After you leave Ziyun, I will help you take good care of Aunt Lan and Xiao Lu. Yang Zixi said with a smile. Thank you. Zhou Donghuang smiled in thanks. Big brother Zhou, we will wait for you to come back. Ren Jiape could not hide the strange emotions in her eyes. In the evening, Zhou Donghuang said goodbye to Yang Zixi and Ren Jiape, then went to see Fu, Freezing Wind, Zhou Han, and Zhou Feng. After giving them some instructions and passing them the follow-up techniques, Zhou Donghuang gave them pointers for the entire night. It was not until the wee hours that Zhou Donghuang returned. I will leave tomorrow. Before returning, Zhou Donghuang told Fu and the rest. Practice well. I hope that the next time I return, you will all have entered the Dharma stage. As soon as Zhou Donghuang said this, Fu and the rest immediately realized that their young master would be away for a long time. Of course, Zhou Donghuang's expectations of them were not high. Within 10 years, he would definitely be back. With the energy-gathering matrix that he had set up on the Donghuang Peak, Fu and the rest's practice speed would not be slow. As long as they did not slack off, they would definitely enter the Dharma stage within 10 years. The next day, as Zhou Donghuang prepared to leave, everyone who was on the Donghuang Peak came out to send him off. Lin Lan, Yun Lu, Yang Zixi, Ren Jiape, Fu, Freezing Wind, Zhou Han, Zhou Feng, Qin Xiaoyu, Qin Zhen. The golden-crowned eagles, Big Gold and Little Gold, were also there. Big brother Donghuang, Xiaoyu will wait for you to return. Qin Xiaoyu said to Zhou Donghuang with red eyes, her tone full of reluctance. Now, Qin Xiaoyu was no longer the little girl of the past. She had grown up, and the childishness in her beautiful cheeks was almost gone. Unlike Yun Lu, who had maintained the appearance of an 8 or 9-year-old girl. I will return within 10 years. High up in the sky, Zhou Donghuang stood with his hands behind his back and nodded to the crowd. Then, with a flash of his body, a golden flame seemed to ignite around him. In the next moment, he transformed into a bolt of golden lightning and shot into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. Hua Yunlu, who had been holding back her tears sensibly, could no longer hold it in as she watched her brother leave. She threw herself into Lin Lan's arms and cried loudly. Whether it was Lin Lan, Yang Zishi, or Ren Jiape, tears streamed down their faces as well. Obviously, in order to let Zhou Donghuang leave in peace, they had been holding it in. Xiaoyu, don't cry. Qin Zhen comforted his daughter. Didn't your brother Donghuang say? He will return within 10 years. 10 years. Without attaining the primal core stage, a person's life would only last 10 years. This time, Zhou Donghuang did not bring anyone with him. He did not even bring the golden-crowned eagles, Big Gold and Little Gold, leaving them to guard the Donghuang sect. There are only a few people in the Donghuang sect now, and they do not live up to their name. However, the next time I return, I believe that they will have already developed the Donghuang sect. Before he left this time, Zhou Donghuang not only set up an energy-gathering formation for the residents of Lin Lan and the rest, but he also set up other formations in other parts of the Donghuang Peak. Of course, there were good and bad ones among these formations. However, even the best of these formations were much worse than the one that covered the residents of Lin Lan and the rest. These were all prepared by him for the future disciples of the Donghuang sect. In my memory, there are no teleportation portals on any of the planets in the galaxy where the Xian planet is located. Let's find the nearest teleportation portal first. Zhou Donghuang raised his hand, and an azure ball the size of a baby's fist appeared in his hand. It could also be called a pearl, and it was the energy-seeking pearl that Zhou Donghuang had made. The function of the energy-seeking pearl was to find the nearest teleportation portal. The spell that was set up inside it would resonate with the nearby teleportation portals. The production of the energy-seeking pearl was very simple. As long as one knew how to set up the spell, even an early primal core craftsman could make it. As for the materials, they could use anything as long as it could withstand the spell needed to make the energy-seeking pearl. Of course, on the Xian planet, there was a high chance that no one knew how to make the energy-seeking pearl. This was because, on the Xian planet, there was not a single true craftsman. In Zhou Donghuang's eyes, a true craftsman had to at least be able to make inferior primal core spirit weapons, and not be able to make things like sword spheres and space rings. Whoosh! After Zhou Donghuang injected his inner yuan into the energy-seeking pearl, it immediately flew into the air and sped off in a certain direction. Zhou Donghuang followed closely. After we reached the teleportation array, where should we go next? Zhou Donghuang racked his brains as he followed the energy-seeking pearl, searching through the memories of his previous life. It is now year 1234 of the Xian era. At this time in my previous life, I was still on Earth. End of this chapter. Chapter 210. In my previous life, although I met them on Earth, other than helping them and interfering with their lives, my previous encounters did not affect their lives at all. Zhou Donghuang kept the form-seeking pearl and sped off in the direction indicated by the pearl. He planned to leave the Xian planet and head to another galaxy. In this life, although I did not appear on Earth earlier and did not meet them again, their lives will definitely follow their original path if nothing unexpected happens. Among them, the earliest incident will happen about 10 years later. As such, I am not in a hurry to go to Earth for now. When I return to the Xian planet, I will go to Earth and help them solve their problems. Very quickly, Zhou Donghuang made up his mind. However, before I reach a planet with a teleporter, I still need to consider where to go. There is no need to go to an unknown place. It is risky and full of uncertainties. In this life, My greatest advantage is the 1,000 years of memories from my previous life. Zhou Donghuang was not an inflexible person. With the 1,000 years of memories from his previous life, he naturally would not take the wrong path in the name of training in this life. Whichever path was easier to walk on, he would take it. If there was a shortcut to take, and it was a safer shortcut, he would be a fool not to take it. Think about it. After I left Earth in my previous life, I heard about some places where relics of the strong appeared or where treasures were born. As Zhou Donghuang hurried along, he searched through the memories of his previous life. There were too many memories from his previous life, especially from the time after he left Earth. If he did not actively recall them, he would not be able to recall them. The memories from the last few hundred years of his previous life were more clear. Furthermore, in those memories, there were many details about the ancient relics and the relics of the strong that he could reach before anyone else. However, those pieces of information were of no use to him now. This was because, with his current ability, even if he knew where the relics were and what treasures were born, he would not be able to obtain the items in the relics. He would not be able to obtain the treasures. Without diamonds, one would not be able to do it. Zhou Donghuang had always stuck to this principle. Got it. Let's go to the Honglong planet of the Tianma galaxy first. A memory flashed through Zhou Donghuang's mind, causing his eyes to light up. Heavenly Horse Galaxy, Great Dragon Planet. That was also one of the planets he had visited in his previous life after he had left Earth. At that time, someone had obtained a relic left behind by a Dharma Peak Adept on the Honglong planet. It was said that the Dharma Peak Adept was a lone practitioner. When he was about to die of old age, he set up a spell to hide his tracks, waiting for the fated person to collect his belongings. Eventually, that place was discovered by a few disciples of a large sect on the Great Dragon Planet, and the relics of the Dharma Peak Adept were also obtained by that sect. That incident had spread like wildfire on the Great Dragon Planet. Basically, everyone on the Great Dragon Planet knew about it, as long as they weren't particularly uninformed. I think it's in the Demonic Beast Mountain range north of the Great Dragon Star's Sky Sword sect. I can't remember the name of the Demonic Beast Mountain range. However, that place is the place where the younger generation disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect and some of the surrounding forces train. When we reach the Grand Dragon Star, we just need to find the Sky Sword sect's encampment. As he thought about this, Zhou Donghuang felt much more assured. In my previous life, I only found out about this about 130 years later. However, at that time, the Sky Sword sect spread the news that the Dharma Peak Adept had already died of old age 200 years ago. That means, that Dharma Peak Adept had already died of old age 70 years ago. Now, his relics are already there. Although I don't know exactly where it is in the Demonic Beast Mountain range, since it's there, I'm sure I'll be able to find it if I look carefully. Zhou Donghuang was very confident about this. I hope that the teleporter that the energy-seeking pearl will lead me to is in the galaxy next to where the Xian planet is, otherwise, I'll have to travel to other galaxies, and that'll take a long time. Zhou Donghuang prayed silently. In his previous life, Zhou Donghuang had been brought to Earth by the crazy Taoist, and they had traveled through space. And the galaxy where Earth was located was next to where the Xian planet was. Of course, it was not in the direction that Zhou Donghuang was heading to now. Now, Zhou Donghuang was heading to another galaxy. There were no teleporters in the galaxy where the Xian planet was located. This meant that anyone who wanted to come to the Xian planet would either have to rely on random teleporters, or they could only teleport to a nearby galaxy and cross the galaxy physically. Apart from these two methods, there was no other way. On the other hand, the galaxy where Earth was located had a teleporter, and it was on Earth, and it was not just one, there were 9 of them. Whoosh! Guided by the energy-seeking pearl, Zhou Donghuang traveled at full speed. The golden flames around his body surged, and his entire person seemed to have transformed into a golden meteor, flying through space. A month later, Zhou Donghuang finally crossed to another galaxy physically. And this was because the Ziyun planet was relatively close to this galaxy. If he had gone to Earth, it would have taken at least 3 months for Zhou Donghuang to enter the galaxy where Earth was located. When he left the Ziyun planet, the spirit energy in the air had already become thinner, and the further he went from the Ziyun planet, the thinner the spirit weapons became. Along the way, Zhou Donghuang relied on spirit stones to replenish the inner yuan in his body to support the journey. In the blink of an eye, another 2 months had passed. I haven't even seen the planet, but the spirit energy has already become so thick, looks like the teleporter that the energy-seeking pearl is taking me to is on the planet ahead. After traveling for 2 months in another galaxy, Zhou Donghuang felt that the spirit energy in the sky had suddenly become thicker, and the further he went, the thicker the spirit energy became. In these 2 months, Zhou Donghuang had passed by 3 planets in this galaxy, but these 3 planets did not have spirit energy, and there were obviously no spirit stone veins on them. They were all uninhabited planets, and the various environments were not suitable for the survival of ordinary life. I see it. 10 days later, a planet appeared before Zhou Donghuang's eyes. Not only was it bigger than Earth, it was even much bigger than the Ziyun planet. However, it was not as good-looking as the Ziyun planet, let alone compared to Earth. Earth was the most beautiful planet that Zhou Donghuang had ever seen in his 2 lives. It was the most beautiful planet he had ever seen. What a thick spirit energy! 3 days later, Zhou Donghuang followed the guidance of the energy-seeking pearl and arrived at the sky where the teleporter of the planet was located. He passed through the clouds and slowly descended. The spirit energy on this planet was much thicker than that of the Ziyun planet. The environment of the Ziyun planet makes it difficult for even Dharma adepts to be born, but on this planet, not just Dharma adepts, even primordial soul adepts can be born. After deeply feeling the spirit energy on this planet, it was not difficult for Zhou Donghuang to confirm this point. Of course, only planets that had given birth to primordial soul adepts, or planets that had once been visited by primordial soul adepts, could possibly have a teleporter. The inscription of a teleporter was not complicated, nor was it difficult, but there was a requirement for one's level of practice. One had to be a primordial soul adept or above to be able to inscribe it. I've arrived. Very quickly, Zhou Donghuang, who had followed the guidance of the energy-seeking pearl, discovered the location of the teleporter. It was located in a desert. In the boundless desert, there was a stone platform that occupied a vast area. On the stone platform, there were 9 areas, and each area was inscribed with extremely deep patterns, and they were all exactly the same. In addition, at the 4 corners of the stone platform, there were 4 huge stone pillars. These 4 stone pillars would require at least 10 adults holding hands to encircle them. They were at least 100 feet tall and looked majestic, and they were also inscribed with deep patterns. This was a standard interstellar teleportation array. Under the main teleporter, there were 9 subsidiary teleporters, which could simultaneously transport 9 batches of people across planets and galaxies. In addition, on each of the 4 stone pillars of the galaxy teleporter, there were 3 lines of words: Akiyama Galaxy, Planet Hiu, the Wilderness North. Obviously, this planet was called Planet Hiu, and this was a part of the planet known as the Wilderness North, and the galaxy where Planet Hiu was located was called the Akiyama Galaxy. The 3 lines of words inscribed on the pillars could be said to be the coordinates of this teleporter in the boundless universe. From other galaxies and planets, one could use the teleporter to teleport to this place. Someone's here? Just as he arrived above the stone platform, Zhou Donghuang seemed to have discovered something. His eyebrows raised, and his gaze focused on one of the stone pillars. I've been discovered. The target is a golden essence adept. Get out. 3 voices rang out simultaneously from behind the stone pillars, and 3 figures shrouded in golden flames appeared from behind the stone pillars. In a blink of an eye, they surrounded Zhou Donghuang. If you don't want to die, scram. Faced with the 3 golden essence adepts surrounding him, Zhou Donghuang's expression was calm, but his eyes flashed coldly as he shouted impatiently. These 3 golden essence adepts were obviously lying in ambush beside the galaxy teleporter, waiting for an opportunity to use the teleporter to other places, or to rob adepts who had used the teleporter to come here. Only primal core adepts and above could use the galaxy teleporter. Because of this, regardless of whether it was the person being teleported or the person being teleported, they would not be weak. Waiting here, if they met someone weaker than them, and if they met someone stronger than them, they would hide. Zhou Donghuang had met many people like this in his previous life. Of course, he had only met such people on planets where primordial soul adepts were rare. This was because on planets where primordial soul adepts and even stronger adepts were as common as the clouds, it was basically impossible to meet such people, because no one dared to take the risk. For adepts of the Dharma stage and above, unless they fought, it was very difficult to determine their actual level of practice. Unless a primordial soul adept used his divine will to investigate. However, primordial soul adepts did not even deign to wait around the galaxy teleporter to rob passers-by. End of chapter. Chapter 211. Upon hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, the 3 golden essence adepts who had surrounded him were stunned. After a while, they regained their composure and looked at each other. They could not help but burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. A mere golden core cultivator actually dares to challenge us? Does he think he's a Dharma adept? What a joke. The 3 golden essence adepts looked at Zhou Donghuang mockingly. Each of them had a weapon in their hands, 2 knives and 1 sword. Their golden inner yuan was infused into the weapons, and they shone brightly. 3 superior grade spirit weapons? Zhou Donghuang raised an eyebrow. He had not expected that these 3 golden essence adepts who had come out to rob him would all have superior grade spirit weapons. Superior grade spirit weapons could increase the power of inner yuan by 60%. On the planet of Ziyun, due to the limited resources available, Zhou Donghuang could not give each of his men an ultimate spirit weapon. Most of them only had superior grade spirit weapons. That's true, this planet might even have primordial soul adepts. This planet is not something that the planet of Ziyun can compare to. Any random golden essence adept would have a superior grade spirit weapon. After thinking this through, Zhou Donghuang felt at ease. Since none of you wish to leave, then stay, Zhou Donghuang said calmly. In his right hand, the spirit weapon, the folding fan, was in his hand. As his golden inner yuan was infused into it, the golden flame surged. An ultimate spirit weapon? Unlike the narrow-minded golden essence adepts of the planet of Ziyun, the 3 golden essence adepts surrounding Zhou Donghuang immediately recognized that the spirit weapon in Zhou Donghuang's hand was an ultimate spirit weapon. On planet Hayu, there were craftsmen who could forge Dharma spirit weapons, not to mention primordial core spirit weapons. However, even a craftsman who could forge a Dharma spirit weapon might not be able to forge an ultimate spirit weapon. This was because ultimate spirit weapons were extremely difficult to forge. The inscriptions on an ultimate spirit weapon were extremely complicated, at least 10 times more complicated than the inscriptions on a superior grade spirit weapon. On planet Hayu, the number of weapon forgers who could produce ultimate spirit weapons were few and far between. Furthermore, the chances of them producing ultimate spirit weapons were extremely low. Because of this, the ultimate primal core spirit weapons of planet Hayu were usually in the hands of the disciples of the great clans. It's an ultimate spirit weapon. I'm rich. I'm rich. I really didn't expect it to be a fat sheep. Kill him. The ultimate primal core spirit weapon is ours. The eyes of the 3 golden essence adepts shone with greed, and they attacked almost at the same time. 2 knives and 1 sword, with a sharp golden glow, flew towards Zhou Donghuang like 3 beams of light. Is it not good to be alive? Faced with the combined attack of 3 Golden Essence Adepts, Zhou Donghuang shook his head and sighed. Then, the golden light on his body intensified, instantly doubling in strength. At the same time, the true core energy on the folding fan in his hand instantly doubled. The inner yuan of the 2 golden elixirs in Zhou Donghuang's elixir field fused perfectly and roared out at the same time. After being amplified by the ultimate spirit weapon, the surrounding air seemed to stagnate. Whoosh! Zhou Donghuang moved towards one of the knife-wielding Golden Essence Adepts. His speed was more than double that of his opponent, and in the blink of an eye, he brushed past him. Whoosh! A brilliant golden light flashed past, and the Golden Essence Adept's head flew into the sky. Whoosh! Just as the other 2 Golden Essence Adepts regained their senses and their expressions changed, another Golden Essence Adept's head flew into the air. Only the last Golden Essence Adept was left trembling. What kind of monster is this? His inner yuan is more than double that of ours. How can there be such a huge difference? What kind of person is he? Is he really human? Whoosh! The last Golden Essence Adept followed in the footsteps of his 2 companions, and with a flash of blood, his head flew into the sky. Thump! 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 3 heads fell to the ground in less than a breath's time. Before this, Zhou Donghuang had already collected their spirit weapons and space rings. The quality of these 3 spirit weapons is not bad, it's a pity that the craftsman's skills are too poor. If I reforge them, I can make them into ultimate primal core spirit weapons, said Zhou Donghuang. And these 3 space rings are made of space stones that are better than the ones in my space ring. If I reforge them, the space inside will be larger. Indeed, this planet has mid-quality spirit stones. In the spatial rings left behind by the 3 golden core cultivators, there was a considerable amount of spirit stones, and there was no lack of mid-grade spirit stones. Normally, unless a mere golden core cultivator came from an extraordinary background, it was impossible for them to have so much wealth. In the boundless universe, the value of 1 mid-quality spirit stone was equivalent to the total value of 10 inferior quality spirit stones. The 3 Golden Essence Adepts were all robbers, and although they did not have much background, they had always been lucky, and so they were quite wealthy. It was a pity that they had met Zhou Donghuang. The current Zhou Donghuang, with his primal core stage inner yuan, the 1,000 years of battle experience from his past life, and the ultimate primal core spirit weapon. Even in the entire universe, there was almost no one below the Dharma stage who could match him. Of course, almost. The universe was too big, and there were many races in the universe. Among them, there were many races that were born with powerful bodies and incredible combat abilities. Zhou Donghuang himself was just one of the more mediocre humans in the universe. Of course, in the entire universe, humans made up more than 80% of the population. Next were beasts, who made up about 10%. The remaining 10% were other life forms. Time to go. After Zhou Donghuang collected his spoils of war, he leaped onto the stone platform and landed on one of the sub-matrices of the galaxy teleporter. At the same time, Zhou Donghuang threw 10 mid-quality spirit stones into a rectangle in front of him. The rectangle was very large, and it could hold hundreds of spirit stones. As the 10 mid-quality spirit stones entered the rectangle, an invisible force enveloped Zhou Donghuang. At this time, Zhou Donghuang began to recite the name of his destination. Tianma Galaxy. Honglong Planet. Sky Sword Sect. Using the galaxy teleporter would require different amounts of spirit stones for adepts of different levels. For primal core adepts, if they wanted to use the same galaxy teleporter, they would only need 1 mid-quality spirit stone, or 10 inferior quality spirit stones. If they wanted to use the galaxy teleporter, they would need 10 mid-quality spirit stones, or 100 inferior quality spirit stones. For Dharma adepts to use the galaxy teleporter, they would need to pay 10 times the price of a primal core adept. To use the galaxy teleporter, 10 mid-quality spirit stones, or 1 superior quality spirit stone. At this time, one could use 100 inferior quality spirit stones to use the galaxy teleporter. If they wanted to use the galaxy teleporter, they would need 100 mid-quality spirit stones, or 10 superior quality spirit stones, or 1 ultimate spirit stone. At this time, no amount of inferior quality spirit stones would be of any use. This was because the galaxy teleporter could only hold 100 spirit stones, and that was the upper limit. And for primordial soul adepts to use the galaxy teleporter, they would need to pay 10 times the price of a Dharma adept. In the future, it would be the same. For example, in Zhou Donghuang's previous life, when he was a heavenly adept, even if he wanted to use the galaxy teleporter to travel between planets, it would still require 100 ultimate spirit stones. Whoosh! Whoosh! Almost as soon as Zhou Donghuang finished reciting his destination, the inscriptions beneath his feet suddenly lit up, and the inscriptions on the 4 stone pillars around him also lit up. In the next moment, Zhou Donghuang's entire body was enveloped by the light, and his body was completely submerged. After a while, when the light dissipated, Zhou Donghuang was nowhere to be seen, as if he had disappeared into thin air. At the same time, the stone platform and stone pillars of the galaxy teleporter also returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. To Zhou Donghuang, when he was enveloped by the power of the galaxy teleporter, his vision went black and then bright, and he saw another galaxy teleporter. In fact, this galaxy teleporter was almost exactly the same as the one he had seen before. However, because the location was different, Zhou Donghuang was certain that it was another galaxy teleporter, and the inscriptions on the 4 stone pillars around the galaxy teleporter were also different. Tianma Galaxy. Honglong Planet. Sky Sword Sect. Obviously, he had reached his destination. This was the Honglong planet of the Tianma Galaxy. Of course, although the coordinates of this galaxy teleporter were for the Sky Sword Sect, it was definitely near the base of the Sky Sword Sect, and not inside the base. Otherwise, wouldn't anyone be able to directly teleport into the base of the Sky Sword Sect? This galaxy teleporter was most likely set up by the primordial soul adepts of the Sky Sword Sect, to make it convenient for the people of the Sky Sword Sect to travel between the various galaxies and planets. That is the Sky Sword Sect. This galaxy teleporter was located in the middle of a mountain forest. Zhou Donghuang looked at a few perilous peaks not far away, and according to his memory, he remembered that this was the base of the Sky Sword Sect. Now, let's go to the north of the base of the Sky Sword Sect, to the Demon Forest, and look for the relics left behind by the Dharma Peak Adept. Zhou Donghuang rose into the air and headed north of the Sky Sword Sect. On the way, Zhou Donghuang's attention was involuntarily focused on the galaxy teleporter. Although the galaxy teleporter is not difficult to carve, as long as one is a primordial soul adept and above and has seen the formation patterns and diagrams, one can set it up, but if one really delves into it, it involves space teleportation. Space teleportation, not to mention me, who was a Deva adept in my previous life, even the deity tribulation adepts, who are above the Deva adepts, would not be able to do it. Behind the galaxy teleporter, I feel like there is a shadow of the legendary divine realm. It is as if there was a powerful person from the divine realm who set up the rules in the boundless universe, so that anyone who is above the primal core stage can use the galaxy teleporter created by those who are above the primordial soul stage. As for where the inscriptions and diagrams of the galaxy teleporter came from, there is no way to trace it back. If we really want to trace it back, we can definitely trace it back to ancient times, or even earlier. End of this chapter. Chapter 212. Forget it, I won't think about it anymore. The secrets behind the galaxy teleporter are things that even I, who had attained the heavenly stage in my previous life, could not understand, much less now. There's no point in thinking about it now. Zhou Donghuang immediately stopped thinking about it. In my previous life, I had passed by this Honglong planet and was about to have a breakthrough in my training, so I stayed here for a while, after hearing that it was a relic left behind by a Dharma Peak adept, I purposely came here. At that time, I was just an ordinary primal core adept, and I wanted to come here to see if there was a chance for me to take advantage of this opportunity. At that time, I was not the only one who wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. However, at that time, the Sky Sword sect had sealed off the entire mountain range of beasts, so I and the others had made a wasted trip. With the memories of his previous life, Zhou Donghuang had a certain level of understanding of the Honglong planet. There was a primordial soul adept on the Honglong planet, but he only had a few decades left to live. In his previous life, when Zhou Donghuang had arrived at the Honglong planet, he had heard that the primordial soul adept had already passed away a few decades ago. The Sky Sword sect was considered a rather powerful sect on the Great Dragon planet. It was located in a remote area, and there was a Dharma Peak adept in the sect. However, there was only one Dharma Peak adept in the sect. Because of this, the Sky Sword sect valued the relic left behind by a Dharma Peak adept very much, and they did not even leave a chance for others to take advantage of this opportunity. I'm here. As he thought about it, Zhou Donghuang looked down and saw a vast mountain range in front of him. It was covered in greenery, and the mountain path was winding and winding. Zhou Donghuang did not discover anything after flying in a circle in the air. Without my divine will, there's no way to investigate the situation in the air. Zhou Donghuang shook his head and sighed as he descended. Divine will can only be formed after attaining the primordial soul stage. The current me is still a long way from being able to form my divine will. Zhou Donghuang, who had trained in the Lord of the Four Supremes, was still a long way from the Dharma stage, let alone the primordial soul stage, which was above the Dharma stage. If I can't find anything from the air, then I'll go in and investigate. Although it's a waste of time, it's better than being a headless fly. Zhou Donghuang passed through the shade of a forest and entered the side of the mountain range. He planned to search the entire mountain range in search of the relics left behind by the Dharma Peak adept. As soon as he landed, Zhou Donghuang felt the ground tremble slightly. Just as he turned around, he saw a giant wolf with a black mane that stood up like a hedgehog. It was running toward him from afar, and its bloodthirsty eyes were staring at him. Its mountain-like body was pressing toward him. The speed of the giant wolf was very fast, and the true chi under its feet was more than 10 feet. Khanate demon? With one look, Zhou Donghuang could tell that the wolf was a late-stage Khanate demon. In Zhou Donghuang's eyes, this type of demon was no different from an ant. Roar, the giant wolf did not realize the danger. Although it was intelligent, in its eyes, a human youth who looked to be in his 20s could not pose any threat to it. In the blink of an eye, the giant wolf was right in front of Zhou Donghuang. It pounced on him, its jaws wide open, saliva dripping from its fangs. It looked extremely ferocious. Whoosh! Zhou Donghuang did not move, but a silver inner yuan shot out from his body and formed a silver palm in the air, slamming down on the giant wolf's head. Bang! With a loud crash, the giant wolf's body stopped in its tracks, and it fell to the ground, no longer breathing. Its huge head had been flattened, and brain juices flowed all over the ground. After killing the giant wolf, Zhou Donghuang did not even look at it. Instead, he began to search the surroundings to see if the final resting place of the Dharma Peak adept was nearby. It's the Black Wolf King. Suddenly, a woman's scream came from behind, causing Zhou Donghuang to turn around to look. With just a glance, he saw a woman in green, who could barely be considered a beauty. She was dressed in neutral clothes, had delicate features, and carried a sheathed longsword on her back. In the blink of an eye, she came to the side of the giant wolf that he had killed. Behind the woman in green, there were two other young men. Regardless of whether it was the woman in green or the two young men, they looked to be about the same age as Zhou Donghuang. It really is the Black Wolf King. The gray-clothed, ordinary-looking young man with a sheathed longsword at his waist came to the woman's side. He looked at the dead giant wolf and exclaimed, "Oh my God! What a strong force!" He directly smashed the Black Wolf King's head. The person who killed the Black Wolf King must have been an expert with his palms. You killed the Black Wolf King? The last young man, who was dressed in green and had rather good looks and a soft sword at his waist, did not follow them to look at the dead giant wolf. Instead, he looked at Zhou Donghuang cautiously. Zhou Donghuang was standing nearby. Because the woman in green and the young man in gray were both focused on the corpse of the giant wolf, they did not notice him in time. Just then, hearing their companion's voice, the two of them turned to look at Zhou Donghuang, their eyes filled with shock and uncertainty. This handsome young man in white before them, who looked to be about the same age as them, was he really the one who killed the Black Wolf King? One had to know that the Black Wolf King was no ordinary late Khanate stage demon. Unless it was an extremely powerful late Khanate stage adept or an ultimate Khanate stage adept, there was no way that one person could kill it alone. Now, the corpse of the Black Wolf King was lying there, and it had not been taken care of. The young man in white was the only one nearby, and if he was not mistaken, he was the one who had killed the Black Wolf King. Zhou Donghuang nodded slightly in response. Then, a thought occurred to him, and he asked, "Are you disciples of the Sky Sword sect?" "Yes." The woman in green replied, and at the same time, she asked, "Are you not?" "No." Zhou Donghuang shook his head. "Not?" The eyes of the woman in green narrowed as she was shocked. The young man in gray beside her was also shocked. The arrogant young man in green also frowned slightly at this moment. He had not expected that the young man who had killed the Black Wolf King was not a disciple of the Sky Sword sect. The three of them were still thinking, could this young man in white also be a disciple of the Sky Sword sect? This was because, in the surrounding area, besides the Sky Sword sect, there were no other powerful sects or families. And in these sects and families, it was impossible for there to be such a young late Khanate stage adept, let alone an ultimate Khanate stage adept. "Are you an ultimate Khanate stage adept?" the young man in green asked. This time, Zhou Donghuang did not speak. He only shook his head, and then looked away. He continued to look around, searching for the place where the Dharma adept had died. "No?" Seeing Zhou Donghuang shake his head, the three of them naturally thought that he was a late Khanate stage adept, and one of the best of the best. Only a late Khanate stage adept would have the ability to kill the Black Wolf King alone. "My friend." At this time, the young man in gray looked at Zhou Donghuang with a smile and said politely, "The Black Wolf King that you killed was also one of our targets this time. We want its fangs and heart. Would you be willing to part with it? Give me a price." The young man in green looked at Zhou Donghuang condescendingly and said casually. When Zhou Donghuang shook his head and denied that he was an ultimate Khanate stage adept, the young man in green looked at Zhou Donghuang differently. At first, it was fear, but now it was disdain. Zhou Donghuang ignored the young man in green and looked at the polite young man in gray. He said, "I did not intend to take anything from the wolf, you can have it if you want." "You did not intend to take it?" The young man in green looked even more disdainful. The late Khanate stage Black Wolf King's entire body was a treasure. Even an ultimate Khanate stage adept like him would have dissected it and taken away the valuable parts. This young man in white was just a mid-Khanate stage adept, and yet he dared to say that he did not intend to take anything from the Black Wolf King? What a joke! "My friend, we cannot accept a reward without doing anything, Just as the young man in gray was taken aback and was about to speak again, he was interrupted by the sound of running footsteps, and the ground began to shake. In a moment, 5 wolves that looked exactly the same as the one lying dead on the ground appeared in front of Zhou Donghuang and the others. They lined up in a row and glared at Zhou Donghuang and the others. Occasionally, when they looked at the giant wolf that had been killed by Zhou Donghuang, their eyes were filled with anger and violence, and the black mane on their bodies stood on end. "Huh! I did not expect our luck to be so good. Another 5 Black Wolf Kings have appeared. Alright, We do not need to buy the things that we want from him, we can just take them ourselves. The young man in green laughed. 5 Black Wolf Kings. The lady in green stared at the 5 wolves with fear in her eyes. Zhao Si, if Xiaoyu and I join forces, we can at most deal with 1 Black Wolf King. Are you confident? She and the young man in grey had just entered the late Khanate stage not long ago, and their abilities were only average among the late Khanate stage adepts. They would not be a match for a single Black Wolf King. Roland, don't worry, this is a piece of cake. The young man in green, Zhao Si, smiled confidently. You and Xiaoyu will join forces to restrain one of the Black Wolf Kings, and then let that young man who is not too bad take care of the other 2. Within 20 breaths, I will definitely kill the other 2 Black Wolf Kings, and then we will take care of the rest. As he spoke, Zhao Si looked at the young man in white, who was still looking around, and said firmly, Young man, if you do not want to die, then do as I say. End of this chapter. Chapter 213. Ignorant kid, did you hear what I said? Are you deaf? Seeing that Zhou Donghuang was still walking and looking around, Zhao Si's face darkened. Oh whoa, perhaps they were annoyed by Zhao Si's incessant yelling, so the 5 Black Wolf Kings howled at the sky and pounced towards Zhao Si. In the blink of an eye, they had surrounded Zhao Si. Damn it! The sudden scene before him caused Zhao Si, who had just recovered from his shock, to have a drastic change in his expression. Because Zhao Si's attention had been on Zhou Donghuang, he had not had time to react to the 5 Black Wolf Kings surrounding him. Otherwise, with his Khanate stage cultivation level, he would have been able to ensure that he would not be surrounded by the 5 Black Wolf Kings. The 5 Black Wolf Kings glared at Zhao Si with their bloodthirsty eyes, causing Zhao Si's hair to stand on end and his entire body to shiver. Although he was an Khanate stage adept, he had only broken through recently. 1 Black Wolf King, he could easily kill it. 2 Black Wolf Kings, he could barely handle it. 3 Black Wolf Kings, life and death. 4 Black Wolf Kings, life and death. 5 Black Wolf Kings, death and death. Kid, if we die, you will die too. I advise you not to take any chances. Zhao Si looked at the 5 Black Wolf Kings warily as he looked at the young man in white. His tone had softened, but it was still arrogant. Almost as soon as Zhao Si's voice fell. Roar, roar, the 5 Black Wolf Kings moved at the same time, like 5 bolts of lightning, pouncing towards Zhao Si from all directions. Their jaws were wide open, and their fangs glinted with a cold light. Zhao Si. The grey-robed young man, Xiaoyu's expression changed. His body floated forward like a willow catkin as he unsheathed his long sword. A 10 feet long sword light whizzed out and pierced towards one of the Black Wolf Kings. This caused the Black Wolf King to abandon Zhao Si and turn around to slap the sword away. Who? The lady in green followed suit, unsheathing the long sword on her back. Similarly, a ray of green light flashed out and fought alongside Xiaoyu. They barely managed to fend off the Black Wolf King who had turned around to pounce on them. However, even though the 2 of them were working together, it was still a little taxing for them to deal with the Black Wolf King. On the other side, Zhao Si, who was surrounded by the 4 Black Wolf Kings, was in an even more pathetic state. He could only rely on his speed to dodge the attacks of the 4 Black Wolf Kings. Although the Xiantian Qi of the 4 Black Wolf Kings was only about 10 feet long, it was extremely condensed. On the other hand, Zhao Si's Xiantian innate Qi was 30 feet long, but it was extremely scattered, giving off a feeling of powerlessness. Friend, make your move. After realizing that Zhao Si was in danger, Xiaoyu smiled bitterly as he joined forces with the lady beside him to deal with the Black Wolf King. Zhao Si's temper is not very good, but given the current situation, if you don't act now and Zhao Si dies, we will all be wiped out. Friend, I apologize on behalf of Zhao Si. Whether it was Xiaoyu or the woman beside Xiaoyu, it wasn't hard to see that the white-clothed young man didn't pay any attention to Zhao Si from beginning to end. Even though they had known Zhao Si for a few years, they could not stand Zhao Si's arrogance. What more the others? Just now, Zhao Si's tone had been filled with disdain. Anyone who was not deaf could hear it. If they were the young man in white, they would also be displeased. Indeed, Zhou Donghuang did not have a good impression of Zhao Si. However, he had a good impression of the other two. Therefore, when he heard the two of them speak, Zhou Donghuang stopped looking around and turned around to look at the pathetic state of the battle. More accurately, he was looking at the pathetic state of the Sky Sword sect disciple named Zhao Si. The other two were still doing well. They had joined forces to fight the Black Wolf King and were evenly matched. Just as Zhou Donghuang was activating the Silver Core Inner Yuan in his elixir field and preparing to kill the Black Wolf Kings, "Why are you begging him?" Zhao Si shouted, and his tone was filled with rage. "If we die, he will die as well. If he doesn't do anything, then he can only wait for death. However, I've changed my mind. Even if he has to die, he has to die in front of us." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhao Si's eyes were filled with violence. With a sweep of the sword in his hand, the four Black Wolf Kings stopped in their tracks. Then, the chi beneath his feet surged. He no longer cared about the problem of using his chi to escape the encirclement of the four Black Wolf Kings and pounced towards Zhou Donghuang like a bolt of lightning. The four Black Wolf Kings gave chase. "Die, punk!" Zhao Si's eyes were filled with madness. Now, he seemed to have lost all sense of reason. Even if he had to die, he would drag the person in front of him down with him. Swoosh! The sword in Zhao Si's hand straightened like a poisonous snake as it sliced through the air. Then, Zhou Donghuang bit down, aiming for the throat. "Zhao Si, you're crazy. Stop!" Zhao Si's two companions saw this and their expressions changed. They hurriedly tried to stop Zhao Si. However, was Zhao Si really crazy? Of course not. The qi in his body had been greatly depleted just now, and Zhao Si had realized that even if the young man in white managed to hold back two of the Black Wolf Kings, he would not be able to kill the other two and would not be able to escape. As such, he decided to use all his qi in a short period of time to divert the attention of the four Black Wolf Kings to the young man in white. Then, he would make use of this opportunity to escape. Of course, by doing this, he would be abandoning his two companions. Fleeing on our own in the face of danger? Zhou Donghuang stood rooted to the ground, not moving an inch. He watched as Zhao Si sheathed his sword at the critical moment and brushed past him without attacking him. "Punk, although I want to kill you, in order for me to escape, you should leave your life to the four Black Wolf Kings." Ha, ha ha ha. As he brushed past Zhou Donghuang, Zhao Si laughed heartily. It was as if he was certain that the four Black Wolf Kings would kill Zhou Donghuang and give him time to escape. At this time, the two companions who were courting death also realized that Zhao Si was planning to abandon them and escape alone. Their expressions changed drastically. Zhao Si had escaped, and the young man in white was dead. They were destined to die. However, in the next moment, they were stunned. Heavens! What had they just seen? Was this real? Were they dreaming? Under the shocked gazes of the two of them, the white-robed young man who had led the four Black Wolf Kings to charge at Zhao Si had, at the most crucial moment, leaped into the air like a celestial being, causing the four Black Wolf Kings to miss their target. After the four Black Wolf Kings missed their target, they continued to chase after Zhao Si. As Zhao Si's qi became weaker and weaker, the distance between them and Zhao Si continued to close. From the looks of it, they would catch up to Zhao Si in a few breaths' time. Not good. The two of them had been distracted by the young man in white's ability to rise into the air. When they regained their composure, they realized that the Black Wolf King had taken the opportunity to attack them. Now, it was too late for them to defend themselves. Bang! Just as the two of them thought that they were going to die, a silvery palm print descended from the sky and pressed the Black Wolf King into the ground. The Black Wolf King had died in front of them in the blink of an eye. The way he had died was exactly the same as the previous Black Wolf King. Silver Essence Adept. The two of them heaved a sigh of relief, but at the same time, their hearts trembled. They had never imagined that the young man in white, who looked about the same age as them, was actually a Silver Essence Adept. Even in the Sky Sword sect, the most outstanding disciple of the Sky Sword sect who was about the same age as them was only at the early stage of the Primal Core stage. What's going on? On the other side, Xiaosi, who had thought that he had used the young man in white as bait to escape the four Black Wolf Kings, suddenly realized that the footsteps behind him were getting closer and closer. In a hurry, he turned his head and saw the white-robed young man standing in the air. Primal Core Adept? Zhao Ci's expression changed as he lost his footing and fell to the ground. In the next moment, the four Black Wolf Kings leapt towards him. Save me! Save me! In his despair, Zhao Ci looked at the young man in white standing in the air and begged for his help. In his opinion, as long as this Primal Core Adept intervened, he would definitely be able to survive. Those who are unjust are doomed to die. Zhou Donghuang only glanced at Zhao Ci lightly and left him with these words before returning to his original spot in the air. In the blink of an eye, Zhao Ci had been torn to shreds by the four Black Wolf Kings. After killing their prey, the four Black Wolf Kings turned their heads to look at Zhou Donghuang. Now that they had developed intelligence, a look of fear flashed across their blood-red eyes, and they fled into the forest in the distance. Everything had been settled. Thank you, my lord, for saving our lives. At the same time, the remaining two disciples of the Sky Sword sect bowed to Zhou Donghuang in gratitude, their eyes filled with respect. Zhou Donghuang nodded at the two of them and left the area. He had looked carefully at the area and had not found any clues as to where the Dharma Adept had died. Now, it was time to change locations. After watching Zhou Donghuang's silhouette disappear from their sight, the two disciples of the Sky Sword sect regained their senses and looked at the place where their comrade, Zhao Ci, had died. Their eyes were filled with anger. Who would have thought that Zhao Ci would abandon us and escape on his own? Humph! He deserved to die. Regarding Zhao Ci's death, the two of them did not feel any pity, because Zhao Ci's actions had already chilled them to the core. However, Zhao Ci's father is still the fourth elder. We still need to find an excuse so that fourth elder does not know that Zhao Ci died in front of us. That's right. Our abilities are not as good as Zhao Ci's, but we survived. Fourth elder is so protective and vengeful that he will not let us off easily. End of this chapter. Chapter 214. After parting ways with the two disciples of the Sky Sword sect, Zhou Donghuang began to patiently search the entire mountain range for the burial place of the Dharma Adept he was looking for. 1 day passed, and there was no result. 2 days passed, and there was still no result. After spending a full 5 days, Zhou Donghuang finally found the suspected burial place of the Dharma Adept. Of course, before it was completely confirmed, it could only be said to be suspected. Because it was too well hidden. It's too well hidden. If not for the fact that these two beasts were fighting and bumped into the brambles here, I would not have found this place. Zhou Donghuang looked at the mountain wall that had cracked open after he had cut down the brambles. Through the crack in the mountain wall, he could see a dark cave passage. Beside Zhou Donghuang, two huge creatures lay there, completely lifeless. They were the two Khanate beasts that had been fighting. After Zhou Donghuang appeared, they both stopped fighting and turned to attack Zhou Donghuang. In the end, they died at Zhou Donghuang's hands. These few days. I've been to this place at least 3 times. The first 2 times, I didn't find it. After shaking his head and sighing, Zhou Donghuang lifted his hand, and a bright silver palm shot out. With a bang, the crack in the wall was blasted open. A cave passage that could fit an adult man appeared in front of Zhou Donghuang. If there are no accidents, it should be inside. After Zhou Donghuang entered the cave passage, there was no obstruction. Finally, he entered a dark cave. As Zhou Donghuang's inner yuan condensed into the samadhi fire, the cave immediately lit up. The cave was not spacious, and could even be said to be simple. In the middle of the cave, a person sat cross-legged. He was now a skeleton, and his robes were tattered and old. On his left hand's middle finger, there was a space ring. Other than that, there was nothing else. "Thank you." Zhou Donghuang bowed to the skeleton. After the ceremony, he took the space ring from the skeleton's left hand and searched the surroundings. After confirming that there was nothing else of value, he left. "From now on, no one will disturb your peace." After exiting the cave, Zhou Donghuang casually struck out a few times, causing the cave passageway to collapse. Then, he dealt with the mountain walls and thorns at the entrance of the cave. After confirming that nothing was out of place, he stepped into the air and left. This spatial ring is actually a supreme-grade spatial ring. Zhou Donghuang instinctively wanted to see what was inside the space ring, but there was no reaction. It was only when he pinched his finger and dripped a drop of blood on it that the space ring reacted. Only top-grade spatial rings could be used by blood binding. Moreover, a top-grade spatial ring had a space of at least 3 square feet, and the largest could even reach a square foot of 10 square feet. 10 square feet, converted to modern Earth units, was about 30 meters. Now, the ultimate space ring in Zhou Donghuang's hand was a cube with a length, width, and height of more than 20 meters. It could be considered a mid-level top-grade spatial ring. Moreover, there was another benefit of a superb space ring, even if it was taken away. As long as you were still alive and you hadn't removed the ownership, no one would be able to take out the items inside. "Let's see what's here." Zhou Donghuang began to look at the items inside the space ring that the Dharma adept had left behind. The first thing he saw was a letter. Because time in the space ring was still, this letter was still as new as ever. On the envelope, the words, "For the lucky one," were written in large letters, and the signature was Mo Qian. Obviously, the Dharma Peak adept who had left this space ring behind was called Mo Qian. "I hope it's just a bunch of nonsense." As he took out the letter from the envelope, Zhou Donghuang frowned slightly. If he had a choice, he really didn't want to open this letter. Usually, he preferred those that left behind various tests, because to a certain extent, that was considered as a reward for his hard work. Moreover, the person who left behind these kinds of miraculous encounters would not leave behind any difficult questions after you had passed all the tests and obtained the items inside. Even if they left behind difficult questions, you could completely ignore them. "I only obtained the items you left behind after passing the tests you left behind. After passing the tests, you still want to give me difficult questions? That's not very kind of you." However, if there were no tests left behind, and it was purely a free miraculous encounter, and the person who left behind the miraculous encounter had left behind some last words for you to do something for him, for someone who valued favors, you would have to do your best to help him complete the task. This was a form of karma. And Zhou Donghuang belonged to the type of person who valued favors. Indeed. After opening the letter and reading it for a while, Zhou Donghuang shook his head and sighed. "These old fogies, they're really bad. Let's see what he left behind first. If it's not enough to move me, or if I think it's not worth it, I'll at most return the space ring along with the items inside to him." He had no choice, he had to be soft-hearted after receiving favors from others. If he was an ungrateful person, even if he had read the instructions in the letter, he could have completely ignored it, and it would not have affected him in any way. But for someone like Zhou Donghuang, this was a form of karma that he had no choice but to accept. Unless he did not accept this karma, once he accepted it, he had to see it through to the end. Otherwise, when he went through the deity's tribulation to ascend to the divine realm in the future, it would become a terrifying tribulation of his inner demons. 2 ultimate Dharma spirit weapons, hundreds of thousands of mid-level spirit stones, and many core medicines. This is the core king fruit. If Zhou Donghuang had been able to remain calm at the start, when he saw the giant golden spirit fruit in the space ring, he could not help but lose his composure. The core king fruit was a spirit fruit that could only be consumed by primal core adepts. Even if an adept who had just entered the late primal core stage were to consume it, he would be able to enter the ultimate primal core stage within a few days. Of course, for a spirit fruit like the core king fruit, any primal core adept would only be able to see its effects the first time they consumed it. This is really tempting. As long as I consume this core king fruit, one of my remaining 2 silver essences, within a few days, it will transform into a golden essence. It had to be said that Zhou Donghuang was a little tempted. At this time, Zhou Donghuang had basically looked through everything in the space ring. Just as he was about to retract his thoughts, he realized that in the corner of the space ring, there was something that looked like a dried tree branch. It looked very inconspicuous, and it was no wonder that it had been tossed in the corner. However, when Zhou Donghuang saw it, his eyes suddenly narrowed, and he could not wait to take it out. The dried tree branch was about 4 feet long, and the patterns on it were very strange. It looked like scales had grown on it, and it was completely grayish-brown in color. It really is this. At this moment, Zhou Donghuang's breathing quickened. Because of his excitement, his chest rose and fell like a bellows being pulled. Soul Shaper. It's actually Soul Shaper. And it's a complete Soul Shaper. My God! Even in the boundless universe, this is something that can be called a supreme treasure. If the Soul Shaper were to appear, it would be enough for the top warriors of the great clans and supreme sects to compete for it. Even at the peak of my previous life, as long as there was a glimmer of hope for it, I would fight for it. If I had this Soul Shaper in my previous life, why would I need to worry about the inner demons of the deity's tribulation? If I had this Soul Shaper, would have long entered the deity's tribulation stage, defeated the deity's tribulation and ascended to the divine realm. The Soul Shaper could be refined by adepts of the Dharma laws stage and above. Once Dharma laws adepts refined the Soul Shaper, they would be able to condense their divine will in advance. Once this divine will was released, it would be invincible against anyone below the primordial soul stage. After refining a complete Soul Shaper and entering the primordial soul stage, the divine will condensed from the primordial soul stage would not be stronger than that of ordinary primordial soul adepts of the same level, but the strength of the primordial soul would be greatly increased, and they would be able to ignore all primordial soul attacks of primordial soul adepts. After entering the divine transformation stage, they would also be able to ignore all divine will attacks of divine transformation adepts. Later, it would still be the same. When they entered the highest stage in the universe, the deity's tribulation stage, their primordial soul would be even more frightening, and they would be able to ignore the inner demons of the deity's tribulation. A complete Soul Shaper, in this boundless universe, if someone took out the Soul Shaper to auction. In my previous life, when I was at my peak, all the wealth I had combined would probably not even be able to bid for 1/10 of the complete Soul Shaper. Zhou Donghuang sighed as he carefully placed the Soul Shaper back into his space ring. That Dharma adept probably did not recognize that it was the Soul Shaper. Perhaps, he did not even know of the existence of the Soul Shaper. The Soul Shaper, because of its nature-defying effects, was also known as the Divine Soul Shaper by the thousands of races in the universe. Looks like I will not be able to avoid this karma. Zhou Donghuang looked at the letter in his hand and sighed. In the letter, the Dharma adept named Mo Gan asked the person who obtained the item he had left behind to try his best to avenge him. His enemy, before he reached the end of his life, was a primordial soul adept. Furthermore, he was a primordial soul adept who had possessed the body of someone else. And the person who had been possessed was Mo Gan's only kin, his adopted son. Because of this, he and that person became enemies. to avenge the death of his son. Hengliu Galaxy, the great desolate planet, the burning sect, Gong Sunling. I'll remember this. He even listed many of the evil deeds that Gong Sunling had done. Is he worried that the person who obtained the item you left behind would be a gentleman who would only help you kill evil people and not good people? That's quite thorough thinking. Primordial soul adepts had one chance in their lifetime to be reborn. They could use it during normal times, and they could also use it when their life was about to end. However, once the possession was successful, they would be stuck at the primordial soul stage for the rest of their lives, and there would be no possibility of breaking through. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would easily possess the body of another. End of this chapter. Chapter 2:15. Gong Sunling, primordial soul adept, once possessed another person's body. In this life, he is destined to be stuck at the primordial soul stage, with no hope of entering the divine transformation stage. When I enter the primordial soul stage, I will avenge you and end the karma between us. Zhou Donghuang looked at the letter in his hands. Suddenly, the inner yuan in his hands ignited with samadhi fire, burning the letter to ashes. Actually, with a treasure like the Soul Shaper, when Zhou Donghuang entered the deity's tribulation stage, he would be able to ignore the scariest part of the deity's tribulation, the demons of the heart. Even if he did not resolve the karma between him and the Dharma adept, it would not affect his future deity's tribulation. However, although it would not affect his deity's tribulation, he did not intend to ignore this karma. This was because he was the type of person who would repay kindness with kindness. Furthermore, the favor he had received this time was a complete soul shaper. This was something he had dreamed of in his previous life. In the boundless universe, a complete soul shaper was known as the pass to the divine realm. Anyone who refined a complete soul shaper would be able to ignore the scariest part of the deity's tribulation, the demons of the heart, before ascending to the divine realm. I'll leave this great dragon planet after I've digested the medicinal power of the Pill King fruit and head to the next stop. However, in my memory, there are only a few places that are suitable for me to have a fortuitous encounter at this time. Next, Zhou Donghuang stayed on the Honglong planet for a few more days. After he had digested the power of the core king fruit, one of the two remaining silver essences in his elixir field had successfully transformed into a golden essence. Now, there was only one silver essence and 3 golden essences left in Zhou Donghuang's elixir field. Now, as long as he was not surrounded by a group of golden essence adepts armed with ultimate spirit weapons, as long as there was enough space for him to use his techniques, he would be able to defeat anyone below the Dharma stage, even without a spirit weapon. Time to go. The nearest galaxy teleporter was the one near the Sky Sword sect. Zhou Donghuang used this teleporter to leave the Honglong planet and the Tianma galaxy. After leaving this time, he might never set foot in the Heavenly Horse galaxy again in his life. How vast was the boundless universe? The Skyhorse star region was just a small star region in the universe. Many large star regions were as big as the Skyhorse star region. 1 month later. Luoha Galaxy, Tianxian Planet. Who? A figure dressed in snow-white robes appeared out of thin air in one of the galaxy teleportation formations on the Tianxian planet. Following which, he lazily raised his head and glanced at the stone pillar on the side of the stone platform. There were 3 lines of words on the stone pillar. Luoha Galaxy. Planet Tianxian. Yunka City. After looking away from the stone pillar, Zhou Donghuang looked around. On one side was a mountain range, on the other was a lush forest, on the other was a vast grassland, and on the other side was a city on a plain. This city should be Yunka City. Zhou Donghuang's heart thumped. In the past month, Zhou Donghuang had been to all the places he needed to visit and had successfully obtained what he needed. Now, he had come to the Tianxian planet in the Luoha Galaxy for Luo Qinghan. Luo Qinghan was the woman he had spent a night with in the lost forest of the Yunyang country of the Ziyun planet. Because they had consummated their marriage, and because it was her first time, he saw Luo Qinghan as his woman. Therefore, he had come to find her. I wonder, if this Tianxian planet is the Tianxian planet that she is from. Zhou Donghuang thought to himself. In the past, when he and Luo Qinghan had enjoyed sex together, she had told him that she was from the Luo family of the Tianxian planet. Zhou Donghuang did not know which galaxy the Tianxian planet was in. The reason why he had come to the Luoha galaxy was because he had heard that there was a Tianxian planet there. Who? Just as Zhou Donghuang was about to leave the stone platform where the galaxy teleportation formation was and head to Yunka City to gather information, another person appeared on the teleportation formation beside him. It was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s. He was dressed lavishly and had a mustache above his upper lip. His eyes shone with shrewdness. "Brother, you are already a primal core adept at such a young age?" The middle-aged man looked at Zhou Donghuang, and his face was full of surprise. After all, only adepts of the primal core stage and above could use the galaxy teleportation formation to travel between galaxies and planets. Zhou Donghuang nodded. Without waiting for the middle-aged man to speak, he asked, "Is there a Luo family on the Tianxian planet? Looks like you are from the outside." The middle-aged man smiled. There is indeed a Luo family on the Tianxian planet. Furthermore, the Luo family is considered one of the top families in the entire Tianxian planet. Their strength is second only to the strongest sections. Zhou Donghuang's eyes lit up. Looks like I have found the right place. Where is the Luo family? Zhou Donghuang asked again. Brother, I can tell you where the Luo family is, but even if I tell you the location, I am afraid you will not be able to find it. The middle-aged man shook his head. And I do not have a map of the Tianxian planet. In my opinion, you should go to Yunka City and buy a map, then bring it to the Luo family. Thank you. Zhou Donghuang nodded and thanked him. In a flash, he rose into the air and headed in the direction of Yunka City. Although the middle-aged man already knew that Zhou Donghuang was a primal core adept, now that he saw the silver inner yuan surrounding Zhou Donghuang, his eyes narrowed. Silver essence adept? Just now, although he knew that this young man in white, who looked to be in his 20s, was a primal core adept, he had only thought that he was an early primal core adept. He had never imagined that this young man would be a late primal core adept, a silver essence adept. Brother, wait. I am going to Yunka City too. The middle-aged man called out to Zhou Donghuang and rose into the air as well. His body was also surrounded by silver inner yuan, and as Zhou Donghuang slowed down, he caught up with him. Brother, my name is Xiaofan. What is your name? The middle-aged man asked with a smile, becoming much more friendly. After all, a 20-year-old golden essence adept usually had a powerful force behind him, and this 20-year-old golden essence adept had a high status in that force. There was no harm in making friends with such a person. Zhou Donghuang. Zhou Donghuang responded, but his eyes were still on Yunka City, which was getting closer and closer. Brother Donghuang, where are you from? I see that you look to be in your 20s, but you are already a silver essence adept. This is really surprising. Xiaofan asked curiously. Even if I told you, you wouldn't know. Zhou Donghuang said lightly. Xiaofan's expression froze as he realized that Zhou Donghuang did not want to talk about it, so he did not pursue the matter further. Instead, he asked another question. Brother, you are going to the Luo family. Do you know anyone there? Yes. Zhou Donghuang nodded and turned to look at Xiaofan. Do you know of Luo Qinghan in the Luo family? Of course I do. Xiaofan nodded, and his eyes lit up as he said, she is the daughter of the Luo family, the youngest primal core adept in the history of the Luo family. Before I left the Tianxian planet a few years ago, she was already a primal core adept. At that time, she had just turned 20. Moreover, it is said that she is recognized by many as the most beautiful woman on the Tianxian planet. Chen Outyan said. Zhou Donghuang's lips curled into a rare smile. It seemed that his luck was not bad. The Tianxian planet in the Luoha galaxy was the planet where Luo Qinghan was from. Brother, do you know the daughter of the Luo family? Chen Outyan asked, his eyes shining. Zhou Donghuang's reply shocked Chen Outyan. She is my woman. These were Zhou Donghuang's exact words. After a while, Chen Outyan regained his composure, and without any warning, his eyes revealed an indescribable excitement. After a while, the excitement subsided. Chen Outyan looked at the city in front of him and smiled at Zhou Donghuang. Brother Donghuang, we are almost at Yunka City. Do you want me to bring you to buy a map? Chen Outyan was very enthusiastic. Bring me to a shop, I can buy it myself, Zhou Donghuang said. Chen Outyan nodded. All right. Chen Outyan agreed, and after entering Yunka City with Zhou Donghuang, he brought Zhou Donghuang to an independent multi-story shop in the city. Brother Donghuang, this is the Thousand Treasures Pagoda under the Huayu sect of the Tianxian planet. It sells everything, including a map of the Tianxian planet. If you have any other needs, you can take a look inside. Chen Outyan smiled. I'll take you here. Thank you. Zhou Donghuang thanked him and took out 10 mid-quality spirit stones. This is my repayment. Seeing Zhou Donghuang take out the mid-quality spirit stones, Chen Outyan's eyes lit up, but his face was stern. Brother Donghuang, you are going too far. I treat you as a friend, but what do you take me for? With that, Chen Outyan turned around and left without looking back. Zhou Donghuang looked at Chen Outyan's back and then walked into the Thousand Treasures Pagoda. Inside the Thousand Treasures Pagoda, a young lady who acted as a shop assistant quickly came to greet him. Sir, what do you need? I want to buy a detailed map of the Tianxian planet, Zhou Donghuang said. Also, I want to buy some herbs and a good elixir furnace. You can bring me to see the best elixir furnace you have here. Now that Zhou Donghuang had an ultimate primal core spirit weapon and a few other ultimate Dharma spirit weapons for him to use after he entered the Dharma stage, he did not need to specially buy metal ores and other materials for forging weapons. Of course, if he could find a rare treasure, he would definitely not miss it. An hour later, Zhou Donghuang bought what he wanted and left the Thousand Treasures Pagoda under the enthusiastic gaze of the shop assistant. He had spent tens of thousands of mid-quality spirit stones in one go. It was rare to see such a big client. Chapter 216. The Luo Family. After leaving the tower, Zhou Donghuang unfurled the map in his hands and looked at the approximate location of the Luo family. It was quite a distance from Yunka City, where he was now. In addition, there was a galaxy teleporter near the Luo family with the coordinates Tianshui Empire. From the galaxy teleporter in Yunka City directly to the Tianshui Empire, then to the Luo family. This way, I can reach the Luo family as soon as possible. Zhou Donghuang's heart skipped a beat, and he had a plan. As he flew out of Yunka City, the originally calm Zhou Donghuang's eyebrows twitched imperceptibly before he calmed down. After leaving Yunka City, Zhou Donghuang flew towards the galaxy teleporter with the coordinates Yunka City. When he first came to the Tianxian planet, he did not know the coordinates of the galaxy teleporters, so when he was teleporting, he only recited the first coordinate, the Luoha galaxy, and the second coordinate, the Tianxian planet. He did not recite the third coordinate. In such a situation, the galaxy teleporter would normally randomly teleport him to one of the galaxy teleporters on the Tianxian planet in the Luoha galaxy. Zhou Donghuang was randomly sent to the galaxy teleporter near Yunka City. He had just flown half the distance when he stopped in his tracks. At the same time, two swift figures flew over from behind him. In the blink of an eye, they blocked his path. Brother Donghuang, we meet again. One of the two people blocking Zhou Donghuang's way was the well-dressed middle-aged man, Chen Aotian, who had enthusiastically helped Zhou Donghuang lead the way to Yunka City's Thousand Treasure Tower. At that time, Chen Aotian had sent Zhou Donghuang to Thousand Treasure Tower, and Zhou Donghuang had prepared to give him 10 mid-quality spirit stones to thank him for leading the way, but he had rejected it. As for the other person, he was a tall and burly old man in blue. His features bore some resemblance to Chen Aotian's, and he was now looking at Zhou Donghuang with a burning desire, his eyes filled with a strong sense of greed. This old man's body was surrounded by a golden halo. It was golden inner yuan, and it was obvious that he was an ultimate primal core adept, a golden essence adept. Zhou Donghuang nodded lightly, his expression still calm, without the slightest change. Brother Donghuang, I am sorry. Chen Aotian stuck out his tongue and licked his dry lips. His eyes were filled with unparalleled greed. If there is an afterlife, remember not to go out alone. Even if you go out alone, it's best not to reveal your wealth. Chen Aotian's words exposed his motive for blocking the road. He wanted to kill them and rob them of their wealth. He was only about 20 years old, but he was already at the late primal core stage. It was highly likely that he was backed by a powerful force that even had primordial soul adepts. This kind of existence must have a shocking amount of wealth in his hands. Even an average Dharma adept might not be as rich as him. The temptation of such wealth was too great. He couldn't resist it. Chen Aotian had no intention of letting this white-robed young man live, considering that there might be a powerful force behind this white-robed young man. He had to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Otherwise, it might leave behind a hidden danger that would consign him to eternal damnation. No wonder you didn't want the spirit stones I gave you at the entrance of the Myriad Treasure Tower an hour ago. It turns out that you think it's too little. Zhou Donghuang had a sudden realization. Tian, why are you wasting your breath on him? He was afraid that something bad might happen. I'll kill him now and take his space ring. The eyes of the old man in blue suddenly shone with a feverish light. The golden inner yuan on his body surged, and a cold, narrow knife appeared in his hand. As soon as the narrow knife appeared, his inner yuan poured into it, and his aura doubled. An ultimate primal core spirit weapon? Zhou Donghuang raised his eyebrows. Die! The old man roared, and his body flew through the air like a golden fireball. With a golden flame wrapped around the knife, he rushed towards Zhou Donghuang. Even though the old man could tell from the silver inner yuan surrounding the young man in front of him that he was only a silver essence adept, he had no intention of being careless now. Even a lion would use all its strength to fight a rabbit. He would not easily make a mistake because of his own carelessness. Therefore, even though his opponent was only a silver essence adept, he still did not hold back and attacked with all his might, intending to kill him in one blow. I wonder how much wealth he has on him. Chen Aotian stood in the air, watching over Zhou Donghuang. His eyes were filled with cruelty, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a brilliant smile. However, in the next moment, his smile completely froze. His eyes widened, as if he had seen something unbelievable. How is this possible? Just a moment ago, Chen Aotian had been waiting for the scene of the young man being killed by his father, but in the next moment, he saw a scene that made his heart almost stop beating. The young man in a snow-white robe stood rooted to the ground, unmoving like a mountain. At this moment, the silver inner yuan surrounding the young man had disappeared, and in its place was a vast expanse of golden inner yuan. From afar, it looked like a golden flame was burning fiercely. His right hand stretched out horizontally, and like a pincer, he grabbed the spirit knife that was slashing towards him. In front of him, an ultimate primal core spirit weapon that a golden essence adept used with all his might was like a child wielding a sword. It posed no threat at all. Isn't he a silver essence adept? How could he be a golden essence adept? What's going on? Impossible. That's impossible. Also, Even if he is a golden essence adept, how could he take on my father's ultimate primal core spirit weapon with his bare hands? Now, the power of the inner yuan on the ultimate primal core spirit weapon has doubled. What's going on? Could it be that father did not use his full strength? That's not right. It's not like father has never killed other silver essence adepts before. Even when facing silver essence adepts, he used his full strength to kill them in seconds. Chen Aotian's expression changed drastically, and his heart spasmed and trembled as countless thoughts ran through his mind. He could not understand what was happening in front of him. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two sounds came from afar, and Chen Aotian was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out of his sockets. The golden inner yuan in Zhou Donghuang's right hand exploded, and he immediately snatched the ultimate primal core spirit weapon from the old man's hand. Then, he sent the old man's head flying into the sky. Fresh blood floated in the air like red roses blooming, dazzling to the eyes. The old man's head flew through the air for a distance before it fell to the ground. His blood-stained face was filled with terror and shock. His eyes were wide open and filled with disbelief. Perhaps, until the moment before his death, the old man still could not understand. How could a silver essence adept suddenly have the inner yuan of a golden essence adept? Also, how could that inner yuan easily crush his own inner yuan, which had been doubled by the ultimate primal core spirit weapon? Father, the scene before him caused Chen Aotian to show a look of pain and regret. He regretted provoking the young man before him, or else his father would not have died. Whoosh! As if a gust of wind had blown past, the old man was killed. After taking the old man's space ring, Zhou Donghuang seemed to transform into a golden bolt of lightning and appeared in front of Chen Aotian in the blink of an eye. A light breeze caressed his face, and Chen Aotian shivered. When he regained his senses, he looked at the expressionless young man in front of him and immediately knelt down. Brother Donghuang, I was wrong, please be magnanimous and let me go. Please let me go. Chen Aotian panicked, completely panicked. His martial arts talent was stronger than his father's, and he would definitely enter the Dharma stage in 100 years. By then, he would be able to live to 600 years old, but now, he was not even 100 years old. He still had more than 500 years to live, and he did not want to die here. However, what he got in response was a casual palm strike from Zhou Donghuang. Bang! The golden palm strike was like a mountain, and Chen Aotian did not even have a chance to react before his entire body was crushed into a pool of blood by the terrifying force of the palm strike. Only a space ring was left, and it fell from the sky and was collected by Zhou Donghuang. From beginning to end, Zhou Donghuang looked at the scene before him with an indifferent expression. In the 1,000 years of his previous life, he had seen too many similar scenes. One wrong step, and there would be no hope of redemption. A martial arts practice would disappear with the death of a martial artist. Whoosh! After killing the two, Zhou Donghuang used the golden inner yuan that he did not have time to retract to hurry on his way. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the galaxy teleporter. Then, through the galaxy teleporter, he was transported to the Tianshui Empire, which was near the Luo family. The galaxy teleporter of the Tianshui Empire was located outside the capital. Zhou Donghuang had just landed when he looked at the map again, and then he flew in the opposite direction of the capital. The Luo family was located in a mountain range on the side of the capital of the Tianshui Empire. The entire mountain range was the territory of the Luo family, and no one was allowed to enter easily. The Luo family mansion was surrounded by the mountains like stars surrounding the moon. Birds sang and the fragrance of flowers bloomed. It was elegant and peaceful, like a paradise. At this moment, in the simple yet elegant hall of the Luo family mansion, the head of the Luo family, Luo Wuchen, looked at the young man in front of him with surprise in his eyes. You are a friend of my daughter Qinghan? The young man in front of him was dressed in a robe whiter than snow. He was handsome and had a refined aura. He did not look like an ordinary person at all. At least, In Luo Wuchen's eyes, the most outstanding of the younger generation in the top sects of the Tianxian planet could not compare to this young man in white. Zhou Donghuang greets father-in-law. Zhou Donghuang bowed to Luo Wuchen. He understood this little bit of etiquette. Of course, it was also because the person in front of him was Luo Qinghan's father. Otherwise, even if the person in front of him was a mighty martial artist of the immortal stage, he would not have bowed to him. You. What did you call me? Luo Wuchen's eyes narrowed, and a look of shock appeared on his face. He quickly regained his composure, and his eyes were filled with anger. A giant sword Dharma, 3 feet tall, appeared on his body. The sword light swallowed, and it emitted waves of unparalleled power that pressed down on Zhou Donghuang. The young man in front of him actually dared to take advantage of him and his daughter? Since when did his daughter have a husband? Chapter 217. Whoosh. As Luo Wuchen's giant sword Dharma approached, Zhou Donghuang's golden inner yuan surged out of his body without any warning and easily resisted the power of the Dharma. Golden essence adept. Seeing this, Luo Wuchen seemed to forget that he was still angry. He stared at the young man in front of him with his mouth agape. This young man looked to be around 20 years old, perhaps even younger than his daughter, Luo Qinghan. How could he already be a golden essence adept? Even his daughter, although she had also entered the ultimate primal core stage and become a golden essence adept when she left the Ziyun planet a year and a half ago, the strength of her inner yuan was still far from this young man. Furthermore, his daughter, Luo Qinghan, had only been able to achieve so much in such a short period of time because she had a miraculous encounter outside a few years ago. Just as Luo Wuchen stared at Zhou Donghuang in shock, thoughts flashed through his mind. After that miraculous encounter, Luo Qinghan's talent was so strong that no one in the entire Tianxian planet could match up to her. And this young man in front of me is actually more talented than Luo Qinghan? That's not right. Luo Qinghan only became enlightened a few years ago. If she had been enlightened 10 years ago, she would probably have entered the Dharma stage by now. However, even so, this young man's talent is probably not any worse than Luo Qinghan's. At that moment, Luo Wuchen's expression turned serious. He was so young and already had such achievements. This young man most likely had a powerful force behind him that the Luo family could not afford to offend. Father-in-law. Zhou Donghuang spoke again, and Luo Wuchen's expression darkened once more. Without waiting for Luo Wuchen to speak, Zhou Donghuang looked at the giant sword Dharma that had risen from Luo Wuchen's body and continued, "This Dharma of yours has 2 obvious flaws. I'm sure you've noticed them long ago and tried to hide them, but you've done a poor job of hiding them. Any Dharma adept with a good eye would be able to see these 2 flaws at a glance." As soon as Zhou Donghuang said this, Luo Wuchen's eyes narrowed. This was because the young man in front of him had hit the nail on the head. His Dharma idol did indeed have 2 obvious flaws, and this was also a flaw in the Luo family's inherited cultivation method. This had been the case for many generations. However, just as the young man in front of him had said, any Dharma adept with slightly better eyesight would be able to see through it at a glance. However, he never expected that, today, the flaw in his Dharma form was actually seen through by a golden core cultivator, and it was exposed right in front of his face. If I'm not wrong, this is because of the cultivation technique you're practicing. There's a problem with it. When Zhou Donghuang spoke again, Luo Wuchen was even more shocked. He felt as if he had no secrets to hide from the young man in front of him. Who are you? Luo Wuchen asked solemnly. He could not figure out why such a person would come to the Luo clan to entertain him and address him as father-in-law. He had never heard his daughter mention that she had a man she liked or a close friend. Father-in-law, I've already introduced myself. I'm Zhou Donghuang, your son-in-law. This time, I came to the Luo family to propose marriage. Zhou Donghuang said. Propose marriage? Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Luo Wuchen heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he frowned and said, "Even if you're here to propose marriage, isn't it too early for you to address me as father-in-law? After all, this marriage might not happen, it still depends on my daughter Qinghan's opinion. Furthermore, I don't know anything about you yet. I'll have to investigate further." Because of Zhou Donghuang's shocking words, Luo Wuchen's attitude towards him had changed subtly, and he was now much more polite. "Father-in-law, your daughter and I have already consummated our marriage a few years ago. This time, I'm here to propose marriage to her because I want to be responsible for her." Zhou Donghuang's words, which were neither servile nor overbearing, instantly caused Luo Wuchen's expression to change drastically. Subconsciously, he shouted angrily, "What did you say? You said that you and my daughter Qinghan, already consummated our marriage? And it was a few years ago?" Now, Luo Wuchen's face was alternating between green and white. The first thought that surfaced in his mind was that this person in front of him was spouting nonsense. However, when his eyes met Zhou Donghuang's, it was difficult to tell that he was lying. In fact, Zhou Donghuang's eyes were as clear as water, giving him the feeling that he was being overly cautious if he doubted Zhou Donghuang. "Yes." Zhou Donghuang nodded seriously. "When? Where?" Although he still felt that it was ridiculous, Luo Wuchen forced himself to calm down and asked seriously. Without waiting for Zhou Donghuang's reply, Luo Wuchen's gaze turned cold, and he added, "If this is true, then so be it. But if this is a lie that you made up, then you will be sentenced to death for slandering my daughter. Don't even think of leaving the Luo family today," Luo Wuchen warned. Following that, as Zhou Donghuang spoke, Luo Wuchen realized that the time that Zhou Donghuang had mentioned matched up perfectly with the time that his daughter had gone out that year. Furthermore, it was during that time that his daughter had returned that her talent had undergone a complete transformation. "Someone." As Luo Wuchen shouted towards the outside of the main hall, a servant hurriedly rushed in and bowed respectfully, awaiting his orders. "Go and find old Madam Li, tell her that I have something urgent to attend to and will wait for her in the main hall." After Luo Wuchen gave the order, the servant hurriedly left. "Father-in-law, this is my betrothal gift." After the servant left, Zhou Donghuang raised his hand, and a stack of paper appeared in his hand. This was the betrothal gift that he had prepared for the Luo family. Although he had never proposed marriage in his previous life, as the saying went, even if you have not eaten pork, you will have seen pigs run. As for the process of proposing marriage, he still knew a little about it. This, betrothal gift? Seeing Zhou Donghuang take out a stack of paper and say that it was a betrothal gift, Luo Wuchen frowned. He had seen stingy people before, but he had never seen someone as stingy as this. What kind of betrothal gift was this? On the Tianxian planet, the betrothal gifts for the betrothal gifts were usually large amounts of spirit stones and a few spirit weapons. But this white-robed young man in front of him had actually taken out a stack of paper? "Do you want to get something for nothing? I'm not in a hurry with the betrothal gift. I want to confirm the truth of what you said first." Luo Wuchen waved his hands and said in a low voice. "Whether it's true or not, wouldn't it be clear once we call your daughter over?" Zhou Donghuang said. "Humph." Luo Wuchen snorted and glanced at Zhou Donghuang. He had wanted to say that his daughter had already left the Tianxian planet, but in the end, the reporter did not speak. About 15 minutes later, a skinny old woman wearing a loose green robe blew into the hall like a gust of wind. A late Dharma adept? Although the old lady did not display her Dharma power, Zhou Donghuang could still determine that she was a late Dharma adept based on her inner Yuan aura. He was even stronger than Luo Wuchen, the head of the Luo family. Zhou Donghuang was puzzled. Who is she? At this time, shouldn't my father-in-law call his daughter over? I heard from the maidservant that you have something urgent to discuss with me. After the old lady appeared, she glanced at Luo Wuchen and asked. At the same time, her gaze subconsciously fell on Zhou Donghuang, who was standing at the side, and she nodded to herself. This young man was handsome and could be considered the most outstanding person of the younger generation that she had ever seen in her life. Mother-in-law. Luo Wuchen bowed to the old lady. After his voice reached Zhou Donghuang's ears, Zhou Donghuang also knew who the old lady was. Immediately, he bowed and greeted the old lady. Granny. Granny? The old lady was stunned. What was going on? After a moment, an idea flashed in her mind, and the old lady's face darkened. She glared at Luo Wuchen and said coldly, Luo Wuchen. Don't tell me that this is an illegitimate child that you raised outside. I remember telling you a long time ago that unless you are stronger than me, as long as I am alive, you will not let down my dead daughter. As she spoke, the old lady's tone became colder and colder. Mother-in-law, you have misunderstood. Luo Wuchen smiled bitterly. He is here to ask for my hand in marriage. He wants to marry Qinghan. Ask for her hand in marriage? Marry Qinghan? Hearing this, the old lady's expression softened. When she looked at Zhou Donghuang again, she began to size him up. Young man, you want to marry my granddaughter? If your granddaughter is Luo Qinghan, then that is correct. Zhou Donghuang said. Mother-in-law. At this moment, Luo Wuchen looked at the old lady seriously and asked in a low voice, when Qinghan had her miraculous encounter, what happened when she went out? Although I know that she had a miraculous encounter, every time I asked her about it, she purposely kept her mouth shut. Just now, this young man told me that when Qinghan went out, he and Qinghan had consummated their marriage. Did Qinghan tell you about this? Luo Wuchen could not help but be suspicious now. This was because his daughter's reaction was too strange, as if it was not convenient for her to tell him about what happened that time. You are Zhou Donghuang? Under Luo Wuchen's unwavering gaze, the old lady looked at Zhou Donghuang and asked with a look of surprise. The old lady's words caused Luo Wuchen's heart to sink once more. This mother-in-law of his actually knew this young man's name? Could it be that his daughter, who had always been as pure as ice and clean as jade, had really slept with this young man? At this moment, when Luo Wuchen looked at Zhou Donghuang again, he could not help but feel that he was an eyesore. It was said that daughters were their father's lovers in their previous lives. At this moment, Luo Wuchen felt as if his daughter had been snatched away from him. Chapter 218. Yes. Zhou Donghuang nodded at the old woman's question. At the same time, he vaguely realized that the old woman had most likely heard of him from Luo Qinghan. He was not surprised that Luo Wuchen did not know of him. After all, from Luo Qinghan's point of view, it was not convenient for her to tell her father about what had happened between him and Luo Qinghan. After all, men and women were different. However, it was perfectly normal for him to tell his grandmother about it. The old woman was Luo Qinghan's grandmother, Li Yu, a powerful late Dharma adept. Aren't you on the Ziyun planet of the Kaiyuan galaxy, where there are no galaxy teleporters? Why are you on the Tianxian planet? After receiving Zhou Donghuang's confirmation, Li Yu secretly gasped. And, have you entered the primal core stage? Or, did someone bring you here? Li Yu added. Before Zhou Donghuang could speak, Luo Wuchen said in a low voice, Mother-in-law, this kid is a golden essence adept, and one that is infinitely close to the Dharma stage. Seeing his mother-in-law's reaction, Luo Wuchen was even more certain that what this kid called Zhou Donghuang had said was most likely true. Instantly, his face darkened, and he looked at Zhou Donghuang with an unfriendly gaze. This kid had actually slept with his daughter? Damn it! Furthermore, from what his mother-in-law had said, this kid had come from a galaxy that did not even have a galaxy teleporter? Under normal circumstances, a galaxy without a galaxy teleporter would not have produced a primordial soul adept. Even if there were primordial soul adepts who accidentally entered, they would not be interested in using a galaxy teleporter. If a primordial soul adept accidentally entered a galaxy without a galaxy teleporter, unless they felt that there was something good about the galaxy and that they might return in the future, they would definitely not spend the effort to set up a galaxy teleporter on a planet in that galaxy. Although setting up a galaxy teleporter did not require any precious materials, it still required a lot of time. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no primordial soul adept would be so bored. Since when can someone from a galaxy without a galaxy teleporter enter the ultimate primal core stage and become a golden essence adept at such a young age? Luo Wuchen did not doubt his mother-in-law's words, so he could not help but wonder. Golden essence adept? And one that is infinitely close to the Dharma stage? Li Yu was frightened. Didn't her granddaughter say that Zhou Donghuang was only 16 or 17 years old and was just a small qi-gathering adept? He did not even seem to have attained petty consummation of the qi-gathering. How many years has it been? He was already a golden core cultivator. Roar! Without any warning, a deafening bestial roar suddenly rang out in the hall. It was the projection of a giant beast that was bent over and crouching on the ground. It was a giant ape. The reason why the giant ape was crouching on the ground was because of its huge body. If it stood up, it would be able to lift the ceiling of the hall that was more than 10 meters high. Just now, Luo Wuchen's 30-foot Dharma power had almost touched the ceiling, let alone Li Yu's 10-foot giant ape Dharma power. However, even though the giant ape was bent over, its back was still close to the ceiling because its body was too big. Whoosh! The giant ape let out a roar as it appeared, and a strong aura pressed down on Zhou Donghuang. Zhou Donghuang's body also began to emit waves of golden flame-like inner yuan. In fact, the golden inner yuan that rose from his body was so vast that it far exceeded that of an ordinary golden essence adept. However, even so, in the face of the 10-foot giant ape Dharma power, his body still felt a burst of inner yuan. The pressure on his body caused his body to tremble slightly. He really is a golden essence adept. Li Yu retracted her Dharma power and looked at Zhou Donghuang as if she had seen a ghost. It looks like that girl Qinghan was wrong about him. How is this a mediocre person? He is obviously a genius who is even more talented than she is now. Li Yu muttered. Although her voice was not loud, Luo Wuchen could still hear her clearly. Luo Wuchen could not help but remind her, "Mother-in-law, don't forget. Qinghan only gained such talent a few years ago. If she had had such talent from a young age, how could her achievements be lower than this kid's?" As Luo Wuchen spoke, he looked at Zhou Donghuang with disdain. He could not help but feel that this kid was too detestable. How dare he tarnish his daughter's innocence? A few years ago, when Qinghan met him, he was only a qi-gathering adept, not even reaching petty consummation of the qi-gathering. As soon as Li Yu said this, Luo Wuchen was once again stunned. He looked at Zhou Donghuang as if he had seen a ghost, unable to regain his composure. "Come. Donghuang, right? Come and take a look at Granny." Li Yu waved at Zhou Donghuang warmly, and Zhou Donghuang took a few steps forward, looking warily at the old woman in front of him. This was because the other party was just too warm. Compared to Luo Wuchen, it was a stark contrast. "Not bad, not bad, you are handsome and have a good aura, way ahead of the most outstanding disciples of the younger generation of the major sections. Not bad. Not bad." It was said that the more a mother-in-law looked at her son-in-law, the more interested she became. Now, when it came to Zhou Donghuang, it was like a mother-in-law looking at her grandson-in-law, and the more she looked at him, the more interested he became. "Are you here to propose marriage, to marry that girl Qinghan?" Li Yu asked with a smile. "Yes." Zhou Donghuang nodded. Very good, at such a young age, you are already so responsible. There are not many young people like you." I am very satisfied, and I agree to this marriage." Li Yu nodded in satisfaction. Li Yu's warmth and decisiveness made Zhou Donghuang feel a little uncomfortable. However, it only lasted for a moment. After regaining his composure, Zhou Donghuang hurriedly bowed and thanked Li Yu. "Thank you, Granny." "No need to thank me, no need to thank me, we are family." Li Yu smiled as she continued to look Zhou Donghuang up and down. As she did so, she nodded, as if she was very satisfied with Zhou Donghuang as her grandson-in-law. Mother-in-law. Just then, Luo Wuchen finally regained his composure and smiled bitterly. "I am Qinghan's father, I have not even agreed to this kid's marriage proposal, why have you already agreed?" "Humph." Facing Luo Wuchen, Li Yu's expression was not as friendly as before. She snorted and said, "In any case, I have already decided that he is my grandson-in-law." "Why? Do you have a problem with that?" Li Yu glared at Luo Wuchen. "No, no." Luo Wuchen smiled bitterly as he shook his head. At the same time, he was even more puzzled. His mother-in-law was not someone to be trifled with. Otherwise, she would not have been able to become a late Dharma adept before the age of 500. Today, his mother-in-law was acting very strangely. There must be something behind this that he did not know. "Donghuang, you were born and raised on the planet of Ziyun?" When she looked at Zhou Donghuang again, Li Yu's old face continued to squeeze out a smile that was uglier than crying. "Sort of." Zhou Donghuang said. "Sort of?" Li Yu was taken aback. "When I was very young, my father sent me to the planet of Ziyun. I was raised by my foster mother. As long as I can remember, I have been on the planet of Ziyun," Zhou Donghuang explained. At the same time, a cold light flashed in his eyes. His fists involuntarily clenched together, and the golden inner yuan that he had already kept within him was released once again. It moved rhythmically around his fists, as if there was a layer of golden fog surrounding them. He thought about what had happened to his biological father, Zhou Haotian, and his biological mother, Zhuge Jing, in his previous life. There are still close to 100 years left. "Father, mother, in this life, I will definitely save you before anything happens to you." Zhou Donghuang's eyes were filled with determination. Indeed. Li Yu secretly took a deep breath, and her heart was filled with realization. She had originally suspected, the reason this young man before her was able to allow her granddaughter's natural talent in the martial Tao to undergo a complete transformation all those years ago was precisely because his bloodline was noble, and he possessed a natural talent in the martial Tao that far surpassed her granddaughter. That was why he was able to help her granddaughter undergo a complete transformation. Now, it seemed that it was indeed as she had suspected. There must be a reason why this child's father left him to be orphaned on such a remote planet. What I can be sure of is that between his father and his mother, at least one of them is not an ordinary person. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to have such martial arts talent. Li Yu thought to herself. Donghuang. No matter how Li Yu looked at her grandson-in-law now, she found him pleasing to the eye. Not only was his martial arts talent amazing, but he was also handsome and looked steady. It would be extremely difficult for her granddaughter to find a man who was more outstanding than him. Most importantly, her granddaughter's body had been taken by him. In this aspect, Li Yu was very traditional. Of course, regardless of this or other reasons, she had already decided that this grandson-in-law before her would be the best choice. She also believed that her granddaughter would definitely not be at a disadvantage if she were to follow this grandson-in-law. She had lived for close to 500 years, and she was confident that her ability to read people was not bad. "Grandma?" Hearing Li Yu call him, Zhou Donghuang regained his composure, and his tightly clenched fists relaxed. The inner yuan around him also retracted at the right time. Speaking of which, it is really unfortunate. About a year and a half ago, that girl Qinghan followed the primordial soul adepts from the Hengliu galaxy and a group of martial arts geniuses from the Tianxian planet who were less than 30 years old to the Hengliu galaxy, preparing to enter the top sects of the Hengliu galaxy. Li Yu smiled bitterly and said, by now, she should have already entered one of the top sects of the Hengliu galaxy. Before she left, she said that once she familiarized herself with the environment there, she would find some time to return. "Why don't you stay behind and wait for her?" Li Yu asked. After hearing Li Yu's words, Zhou Donghuang also realized that Luo Qinghan was no longer with the Luo family. She had gone to the Hengliu galaxy and entered one of the top sects of the Hengliu galaxy. As for which sect she had entered, even Li Yu and Luo Wuchen did not know. They would only know when Luo Qinghan returned. Chapter 219. Hengliu Galaxy. The Hengliu Galaxy, isn't that the galaxy where my enemy from the Honglong planet of the Tianma Galaxy is located? Isn't that the galaxy that the Peak Dharma Adept left for me? Zhou Donghuang remembered clearly. The enemy of that Dharma Adept was the primordial soul adept of the fire sect of the Hengliu Galaxy, Gong Sunling. Fire Flaming Sect, it was obvious that it was a sect named after a sect. "Granny, I won't wait for her. If she comes back, tell her that I am also in the Hengliu Galaxy. If everything goes as planned, we will meet in the Hengliu Galaxy very soon." After Zhou Donghuang had spoken to Li Yu, he used his inner yuan to carry the stack of papers in his hands into Li Yu's hands. "Granny, this is my betrothal gift." Zhou Donghuang hurriedly bade farewell to Li Yu and Luo Wuchen and turned to leave. He prepared to go to the galaxy teleporter nearby and teleport to the Hengliu Galaxy. Zhou Donghuang came and went like the wind. Li Yu and Luo Wuchen only regained their senses when he disappeared from their sight. "What an impatient brat!" Luo Wuchen cursed. "I think I like his way of doing things." Li Yu smiled lightly. "Mother-in-law." Luo Wuchen smiled bitterly. "How could you so easily entrust Qinghan to someone else? Furthermore, we have not even asked for her opinion on this. How do you know if she is willing or not?" "Easily." Li Yu shook her head, and her eyes flashed with wisdom. "Do you think that I, Li Yu, am that kind of person? Haven't you always wanted to know what kind of fortuitous encounter that girl Qinghan had when she went out a few years ago that allowed her martial talent to be reborn?" Li Yu looked at Luo Wuchen and asked. "Yes." Luo Wuchen nodded. "I have asked her a few times, but she always changed the topic and refused to tell me. It is normal that she did not want to tell you. Although you are her father, you are also a man. There are differences between men and women." Li Yu said, "About Qinghan and Donghuang should have told you, right? Otherwise, you would not have asked me to confirm it." "Yes." Luo Wuchen nodded. "I did know that He Meng from the He family drugged Qinghan, but I didn't know that Qinghan suffered so much in the end. Back then, he knew that Luo Qinghan and his mother-in-law had gone to the He family together to kill the young mistress of the He family, He Meng. The transformation of Qinghan's talent was due to that one night with Donghuang." As soon as Li Yu said this, Luo Wuchen was shocked into a daze. He only regained his composure after a while and looked at Li Yu in disbelief. "Mother-in-law, you mean to say that Zhou Donghuang has a noble bloodline and extraordinary talent that far surpasses Qinghan's, which is why Qinghan's martial talent has undergone such a shocking transformation? In the boundless universe, the bloodline of humans was about the same in the beginning. However, when some humans achieved success in their cultivation, their bloodline would undergo a subtle transformation along with the increase in their cultivation. The offspring of these people would naturally have a bloodline of a higher grade than the average human. In the union of two humans, if one of them had a bloodline that was far superior to the other, and if the one with the higher bloodline was still a virgin or a child, then the other's talent in martial arts would undergo a complete transformation after the union of the two." Luo Wuchen knew this very well. "Yes." Li Yu nodded. "Could it be that Qinghan had some other fortuitous encounter?" Luo Wuchen asked. "Impossible." Li Yu shook her head. "Qinghan has told me everything that happened on that trip, and I can conclude that the transformation of her martial talent has something to do with Dong Huang. However, when Qing Han said that Dong Huang was only a qi-gathering adept, I was puzzled, but now, it seems that for some reason, Dong Huang was still a qi-gathering adept at the age of 16 or 17. However, in these few years, Dong Huang's talent has clearly been fully displayed. Otherwise, he would not have been able to become a Golden Essence adept at such a young age. Furthermore, as a Golden Essence adept, his inner yuan is much richer than that of an average Golden Essence adept. It is so rich that it is unbelievable. I think that he is only half a step away from the Dharma stage. Li Yu's words caused Luo Wuchen to fall silent for a moment. I was still wondering how someone with such a noble bloodline could exist on a small planet in a galaxy that does not even have a galaxy teleporter, but Dong Huang has already answered my question. Li Yu's eyes shone as she spoke again. Dong Huang only grew up on the planet of Ziyun, and he is not a descendant of the people of Ziyun. He was entrusted to the planet by his biological father. For Qing Han to be able to marry him is Qing Han's good fortune. Furthermore, I can tell that although Dong Huang is a little quiet, he has a maturity and steadiness that does not match his age, and he is very responsible. Qing Han will not be at a disadvantage in this marriage. Li Yu was not stingy with her praise for Zhou Dong Huang. Hearing this, Luo Wuchen could not help but feel a little jealous. His mother-in-law had never praised him like this before. However, jealousy was one thing, but he was still very concerned about his daughter's marriage. After listening to Li Yu's analysis, he finally relaxed. Thinking back, he realized that when he had tried to accept Zhou Dong Huang as his son-in-law, Zhou Dong Huang had not seemed so annoying. With just the level of a primal core adept, he was able to see through the flaws in my Dharma power. It seems that when his father entrusted him to the planet of Ziyun, he also left him many good things. Otherwise, he would not have been able to see through the flaws in my Dharma power with his level of practice. Luo Wuchen thought to himself. I don't know what will happen in the future, but from the looks of it, not only will Qing Han be at a disadvantage, but the Luo family will also be at a disadvantage. Luo Wuchen's gaze fell on the stack of papers in Li Yu's hands, and he scolded, that rascal, he could have just taken out some spirit stones as a betrothal gift, but he only gave her a few pieces of paper. How could he be so stingy? If he is so stingy, the Luo family will definitely not give him a dowry in the future. Luo Wuchen was exasperated. Betrothal gift? Hearing Luo Wuchen's reminder, Li Yu picked up the papers in her hands and looked at them seriously. Her expression gradually became serious. Seeing Li Yu's expression, Luo Wuchen's heart skipped a beat. What did that rascal write on these papers? After a while, he saw Li Yu's face light up with joy, and then with ecstasy. Her eyes and face were filled with excitement, and in the end, she could not help but laugh out loud. The old man's laughter reverberated in the hall, making Luo Wuchen even more curious about what was written on the papers. Good, good, good. With this technique, I, Li Yu, will definitely enter the primordial soul stage. Li Yu said excitedly with an excited look on her face. Technique? Luo Wuchen's eyes narrowed. Furthermore, it was a technique that made his mother-in-law confident that she would definitely enter the primordial soul stage. Although his mother-in-law still had more than 100 years to break through to the primordial soul stage, it was almost impossible for her to do so. This was something that even his mother-in-law herself had said long ago, and she was even more mentally prepared for it. However, what he did not expect was this: his mother-in-law, after seeing the technique that his future son-in-law had left behind as a betrothal gift, had actually said that with this technique, she would definitely enter the primordial soul stage. What kind of technique was this? Mother-in-law, what technique did that rascal leave behind? Luo Wuchen looked at Li Yu and could not help but ask curiously. The technique of everlasting youth. Li Yu stared at the papers in her hands, and she flipped through them page by page. This technique far surpasses the technique that I previously practiced and the Luo family's legacy technique. In fact, the difference between this technique and ours is like the difference between the clouds and the mud. This technique not only increases the speed of our practice, but it can also make our Dharma power even stronger. For Dharma adepts, the better the technique they practice, the stronger their Dharma power will be. If I successfully switch to this technique, even if I am still at the late Dharma stage, I am confident that I can battle the ultimate Dharma adepts of the top sects of the Tianxian planet. In addition, once I successfully switch to this technique, my lifespan will be extended by another 300 years. Even if I do not enter the primordial soul stage, I will still be able to live to 900 years old. The technique of everlasting youth was the technique that Zhou Donghuang had passed on to his mother, Lin Lan. Once one reached the primal core stage, one's lifespan would be increased by another 50%. Primal core adepts who practiced the technique of everlasting youth could live up to 450 years old. Once they entered the Dharma stage, they could live up to 900 years old, which was 50% longer than the 600 years that the average Dharma adept had. The same was true for the later stages of practice. One's lifespan would be 50% longer than others of the same stage. This technique can actually extend one's lifespan. This is no different from changing one's destiny. The more Li Yu spoke, the more excited she became. Donghuang left a note at the end saying that this technique, even in the entire universe, is a top-notch technique. He said that once we enter the primordial soul stage, he will pass on the rest of the technique to us. This technique can be practiced all the way to the deity's tribulation stage. Luo Wuchen was completely dumbfounded. Just now, he had been complaining about his future son-in-law's stinginess, only giving him a stack of paper as a betrothal gift and not giving him some spirit stones. Who knew that in the next moment, he would be slapped in the face? When Luo Wuchen took the technique of everlasting youth from Li Yu's hands and confirmed the authenticity of the technique, he could not help but reveal a look of excitement on his face. He was so excited that he slapped his thighs repeatedly. Good, good, good. Good son-in-law. Good son-in-law. I, Luo Wuchen, will accept this son-in-law. If that last Qinghan dares to object, I will break her legs. This time, Li Yu did not refute Luo Wuchen's words. Instead, she agreed. That's right. If that last dares to object to this marriage, you break her left leg, and I will break her right leg. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.